Live, right?
No, yeah, we're live already.
Oh,
We're
really?
already live. The world, there's no time for a countdown today, folks. This
No.
is breaking Thursday. Welcome to Status Coup. Is it live where you're at, Tina? Are you like
It is.
officially
Yes, we
you're
are
dancing?
officially
All right.
we're
Well,
going.
happy Thursday. I'm Ron Placone. It is Thursday, January 19th, 2023. Jeez.
I
It's
know
this
it's
year's
flying
already going
by.
way too freaking fast. We have a lot to talk about today, folks,
We
and we
do.
got some breaking news, and this has to do with the forest protection going on in Atlanta. First of all, smash the like button, smash it, show the like button who's boss. It's a new year, it's a new year, and a new you. Show that like button who's boss. Smash it up. Be like, hey, like button, you're going to like this. And if you don't want to like it, I'll like it again. Likes are disappearing. That happens. So make sure, show the like button who's boss. Feel free to leave us a super chat. We'll get to super chats towards the end of the stream. So please do that if you are able and support this show. And Tina, should we just bring in our guests? Because this is
I
some breaking
yes.
news here.
I so we're bringing in Matthew, who's the interim executive director of Beloved Commune. He has been at the Cop City protests in Atlanta. For folks that are just learning about Cop City, this is actually something that's been going on for over a year now. Basically, the city of Atlanta wants to build a large training facility to for police officers, fire department in a protected forest area there. So lots of folks are not okay with it. I'd say I listened to some of the old Zoom conferences on it when the city council was approving this, and I'd say about 70% of the respondents were not okay with this. So it's a very unpopular idea that's happening. So as things have progressed, we now have protesters that have been camping out in the forest. Currently, the GBI, which is the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, the DHS, we have multiple, obviously Atlanta Police Department, are all there on site. Things have escalated, and a protester was shot and killed this week. So welcome, Matthew. Let's bring Matthew in, and we're going to talk to Matthew about what happened in Atlanta this week. What is your read on all of this? You've been there on the ground.
Right. It was a murder. And I think that the first thing that we should note is we're dealing with people that labeled protesters terrorists while they were sitting in trees, literally minding their business. And they were pepper sprayed, had pepper balls fired at them, had rubber bullets fired at them, and did not respond whatsoever. Yet they were still labeled terrorists. So we are led to believe that it's quite likely that the claim that an officer was fired at first is specious, considering that they've been lying about the dynamics of the folks in the force versus the asymmetrical violence of law enforcement this entire time. Now, I can also see how people having guns pointed at them consistently, constantly living under threat, having been brutalized by police perhaps multiple times at this point, could also fire a shot in self-defense. I mean, after all, we are living in a time where police who have expert training are given grace to fire at people with no guns with their backs turned for fear of their own lives. So somebody who does not have that expertise, I could also understand how they could be in fear for their life and shoot in self-defense, especially when you have footage of uh, police officers and law enforcement already uh, targeting and pointing at protesters. So I say that to say this: it seems that it could be a specious claim just because that is what we are accustomed to. However, at this point, I still will not condemn the person if they acted in self-defense.
Right. In fact, they've had conflicting claims in their news report. One report
Correct?
said that they encountered him in a tent, and then
Right.
that changed to just it was a shootout in the forest. It seems to me unlikely that a protester would just fire at an officer. And I know in a lot of times in these escalated situations where you have multiple police agencies coming in there, they're all on edge, possibly trigger happy. it's very likely that they heard one thing and then they all started firing their guns. It wouldn't surprise me if it turned out 2 weeks from now that we hear that it might have been friendly fire that killed the state trooper, or not killed the state trooper, where he got shot, he's injured in the hospital, and that the protester was killed.
Well, yeah, I mean, that goes in line a lot more with what we've seen thus far, right? We've seen police use inordinate violence. We have seen them mislabel arrests so that there were some cases where people were detained, carried into a portion of the forest that was owned by another entity or by the police, and then they were charged with trespassing. When they were actually on public lands when they were initially arrested. I mean, so we have a precedent of, quite frankly, the police lying. And with that narrative, this is something that we were joking about. Like, so the only way to make it make sense is if our friend Fred Flintstone's tent pulled his feet between it and somehow ambushed these officers, and then they were afraid for their life. This tent man that was chasing them, I suppose. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just gonna jump in here, just so we have everything, like the kind of claims here, like just sort of set, because this is unfolding in real time. They are claiming, they being the police and so forth, they're claiming that this protester, this individual, opened fire on a state trooper, and then they retaliated against this protester. However, there are conflicting reports there, because there's another claim that they encountered this individual in a tent.
Yeah.
So it's not really clear what went on here. You're left to speculate, was it friendly fire, as Tina mentioned? And, well, nobody knows exactly what happened quite yet.
Right.
Like so many, for instances, it sounds like the cops aren't being very honest. It seems very unlikely what they're claiming. And boy, have we heard this record before. Just so people are clear on where we're at. Is that all pretty much sound as far as what we know so far?
That is true. I think another thing that we should note is that legal observers were blocked off from going anywhere in the forest because they said that it was an active crime scene. So, I mean, what do we have to go on? We have like a precedent of Georgia State Patrol acting in disproportionate violence, just as they did in a protest in May. As we've had them involved really 2 times I can think of off the top of my head, and both of which they showed disproportionate violence, where folks that were at a nonviolent protest were attacked, and I believe there were 12 arrests. Now they pop into the forest and somebody ends up dead. These are highway cops. Why are they there? That's because they specifically report to the governor, who is right wing, and folks were complicit. And now blood is on their hands.
So we kind of talked about this off mic, but I want to kind of reiterate it on. You mentioned that they were stopping people from entering the forest, which is why there's not kind of more documentation available, because they're not letting, say, journalists in or anything like that. How long has that been going on? Has that been going on?
Oh, excuse me. And this has been going on for quite some time. I mentioned that protest in May, where you ran into the Georgia State Patrol before. There is video footage of a journalist that is being that the journalist it's a little bit meta, so give me a second. The journalist is recording as an officer is ordering for him to be arrested because he is recording the officer. So please go look that up. I wish I could think of the officer's name off the top of my head, but it won't be hard to find.
That's a straight up First Amendment right violation.
So,
Oh, no, there's another one because, for instance, there was someone else who was filming as they were driving. Now, that is technically illegal because of the Georgia Free Hands Law. However, not for you to get arrested for. This is a traffic violation. And so we're already seeing this, just really these oversteps. One of the favorite things of the police to do in these situations is pedestrian in the roadway, where they arrest protesters. And there are many times where folks have actually been pushed into the roadway by police, then arrested for pedestrian in the roadway.
Wow, that's...
Yeah, these guys don't play fair.
So let me just ask one clarifier real quick here, just so we know. So as far as like keeping journalists out and that type of behavior, that has been going on long before this incident occurred. It's not like this incident occurred and they're like, oh, it's a crime scene now, you got to stay out. They're saying that, but in reality, they've been doing these types of things for a long time. Is that correct?
They've been doing this. And not only that, they've been disappearing activists. Look up the story of Oscar Kane. Right. Still been no explanation for it.
That's crazy. Also, let's talk about the domestic terrorism charges. Right. You know, so for folks that don't realize this, I guess it's been about 2 weeks, maybe actually 3 or 4 now. But
it's been a month since the first wave.
Okay, so they arrested 6 or 7 protesters, and they're charging with domestic terrorism. My understanding is that that's the GBI doing that, not the FBI. Is that correct?
Yes. Okay. And then the prosecuting DA is from DeKalb County. I believe that GBI was the ones that officially charged them.
Right. Correct. So not federal charges, state charges, which is why, so for folks that are trying to keep track of this sort of thing, I want to also talk about the fact that this isn't a single party issue. You know, Brian Kemp sent in the troopers, but we also have Democratic elected leaders that are fully supporting Cop City, that are fully supporting the officers. Your current mayor put out a tweet a couple of days ago basically saying he supports the state trooper, and he didn't even mention the protesters that was killed. No mention of the protester at all. What is your take on that? This guy's supposed to be, you know, on the left.
Right. Well, I think when it comes to electoral politics in the United States, I mean, the left is virtually non-existent. Right. And just the compromises that folks make when they're getting into office in Atlanta are just so, we rarely get anything done. By the time you end up with people, right? They come in with no principles. They just want to be elected. And by the time that they get to the top, I mean, they've given over everything that they can. But however, I will also give you an example of when Atlanta's officials have had their legs cut out from under them. Mayor Shirley Franklin, who was in office, the early 2000s, maybe the early, but certainly the early 2000s. She was one of the first people to pass a minimum wage only within the city. That was then undercut by the GOP at the state level so that no municipality could create a mandatory minimum wage. Now, this is not separate from the fact that Atlanta has the largest racial income disparity or median income disparity measured by median income of any major city in the country. So, I mean, there are deep-rooted issues of race that keep Atlanta going, although it's pretty far down the line, maybe about 19th, 20th largest city. It is the most surveilled city in the country. And this is going to be the largest police training facility. It would be 3 times the size of LAPD's training facility. It would be 4 times the size of New York's training facility.
That's crazy.
They're planning on building this to scale. This is what fascism looks like.
This sounds like this is like the Death Star operation. Like this is.
I was just thinking stormtroopers, and I've had the idea of state troopers in my head over the past few days. It's been very hard for me to separate.
No, it sounds like it. I want to talk about Buckhead County for a moment, or Buckhead City. Pardon me. Sorry, city. So this is a wealthy area of part of Atlanta, but there was a secessionist movement that happened where they were going to leave the city of Atlanta, and I think this is played into both party politics, right? They need the tax base of this area because it's wealthy. It's the tax dollars from this wealthy area is used to fund a lot of the programs in Atlanta, so they're afraid of losing that. Now, my understanding is the guy that started the secessionist movement was a Trump supporter. However, you also had buy-in from the Democratic mayor and the Democratic city council folks. They also wanted to keep Buckhead County in there, but I think it sort of goes along with what we're seeing in Cop City right now because it's the wealthy that are predominantly behind supporting the growth of Cop City. And also the Police Foundation has been taking donations from a lot of the major corporations there. And it seems to me on one side you have the wealthy elites and the corporations that want Cop City to happen, that want the funding there. And then the vast majority of folks that live in Atlanta that don't.
Yes. And I think that there are a couple of things to note. Now, once again, this is my own analysis, just looking at the situation as best as I can. But something that we should keep in mind is for them to vote on Buckhead City, for it to come to a vote, it would have had to go through the state legislature that is Republican controlled.
Interesting.
The new mayor was getting into office, and this was one of the big things on the docket. I think that he made assurances about the building of Cop City and other concessions to expand the use of law enforcement in order to keep Buckhead City there. Now, Buckhead as a part of the city of Atlanta. Now, here is another thing that we should also keep in mind. They also built a new precinct around that same time in Buckhead. However, I'm of the opinion that they just in general, there are so many resources that are taken by the rich, especially in a city like Atlanta. Like, for instance, there were 50 police cars at least staged outside of Lenox Square Mall, which is, the place to be in Buckhead during the uprisings. While most of the other parts of the city to be damned, right? So it's like, this place has always been like a place where resources have gone at a disproportionate amount. And I think that another thing that we made concessions on, we being the city, not me as having any agency in city government, excuse my language there. There had been complaints about noise because of the nightlife in Buckhead. And once again, most of that's going to be anti-Black because of the nature of nightlife in Buckhead. And they're trying to shut down a lot of these places, right? Because of the noise. Now, how ironic is it that in order to be training these people, they're putting in a site with a full shooting range and where they detonate and test bombs in a Black neighborhood, essentially to ensure the peace and quiet of the north side of Atlanta, to be damned with these people that already have a landfill, a juvenile detention center, as well as another detention center on the street leading to this place, where there used to be Atlanta Prison Farm, where even Stokely Carmichael was held there, or Kwame Ture, as a punishment for his activism. This has been a place that has exploited Black labor and been a place where people were held for their labor. And now they are putting another training ground for the same behavior. I mean, it would be tone deaf if they even cared to listen.
That's true. Yeah, let's talk about the history of that for folks that don't know. It was a prison farm, I think, up until 1991, where there was labor for prisoners. You worked on this farm. And my understanding that is previously before that, it was actually a plantation site.
Oh, hold on to your hats. This land has had no rest from wicked, and God knows how long. Maybe this past 30 years or so has been the freest that it's been. But let's also keep in mind that the only reason that they shut down the prison farm is because the water surrounding it was so poisoned they kept ending up with dead prisoners because of arsenic in the water. Right. So there's also a long history of poisoned water along the South River Forest. And whenever it rains more than 1/10 of an inch around where they're building Cop City, sewage floods into it. Now, okay, and I'm getting a little bit far afield, but I think this is very important stuff.
Yeah.
The county has been mandated by EPA regulations to clean up the water supply in DeKalb County because it's so bad. However, there is a caveat in which they aren't mandated to clean up in the South Side, where it's about 80% Black residents. This is the EPA, and this was supported in courts, right? That this qualifier, that they didn't have to clean up the water right here because it wasn't worth the money. So when we're looking at Flint, Michigan, when we're looking at Jackson, Mississippi, this is how this happened systematically. And so there are so many people that have been coming in towards this movement because it just hits on so many levels. Now you're considering paving all this place where you used to have water runoff. Now we're at 1/10 of an inch. What does that mean for how how little of a drizzle it will take now
Right.
before you have more flooding of sewage into the water supply, right? They're taking away all the wetlands that are making at least somewhat potable at this point.
Yeah.
But I digress. Let me get back to the prison farm. Yes, and so this has been a place, first it was stolen Muskogee land,
Okay.
and then all compromises were violated. Then it was also a place for a plantation.
Okay.
Then it became the Atlanta Prison Farm, and people were taken in on charges such as public nuisance, public intoxication, essentially the ones where you just round up poor people,
Yeah.
right?
And force them into labor. Yeah.
And force them into labor, precisely. And so they were providing food for the other prisons in Atlanta. You know, they had their own little ecosystem back then.
Wow.
And so they were forced to work on a farm for free to provide food for the other places throughout the city, where they were also imprisoning predominantly black men.
Wow, that's crazy. Also on the environmental side, my understanding is they want to build a gun range, and that the amount of lead that would come from that would be very toxic for the water, and that where this gun range is going to be is right adjacent to a river. So it seems to me that it would make sense that environmentalists are in solidarity right now with social justice folks against Cop City. I mean,
And let's be very clear. They're already using that gun range, and they've already been using that space to test chemical weapons like pepper spray and shooting these things off. There were people that have been poking around this land for a while, and there were times where we found new pepper spray canisters and beer cans. So what the fuck are we supposed to put together? Excuse my language, but
no,
they're just having
that was a deserving of a what the fuck. Are you kidding me?
I mean, so like they're just having a good old time, I guess, poisoning the land, and now they're going to, instantiate this officially. I mean, this is a joke.
Wow.
So they're already poisoning the water, but now I suppose they're about to bring it to scale, since they're saying that this is going to be a regional training facility now. The devil's in the detail.
So as far as like the unfolding of all this, I mean, so many reports have said that, you know, the organizations, your organization, y'all have shown up to City Hall. Y'all have like major voices heard. 70% of people aren't a fan of this. I mean, what has been just the response like on the ground floor, where it's like so many people are clearly opposed to this and they're just being ignored? Like, can you kind of speak to the anatomy of that?
They don't care at all, and they're spooked by the Atlanta Police Foundation that wields significant amount of power. Dave Wilkerson, he was like Secret Service for Bush Reagan, so yeah.
Oh,
that's
I
the
didn't
guy
know
that you
that.
want
That's
looking out
interesting.
for the blackest city in America. Totally.
Oh god.
And also, this is like they push the narrative of being soft on crime, which is always a dog whistle for they're just going to let the blacks take over. So like this is the way in which this city's and the country really is being pushed further and further right. At the same time, mind you, about 37.5% of our budget goes into policing already. What I think it was about $283 million out of our $780 million budget for this year. Meanwhile, the mayor had to be shamed into putting in the $7 million in the housing trust fund that he had promised and voted for when he was on city council. And his reasoning for that was inflation. And they think shit like this makes sense when they're saying, oh, the reason why we didn't invest in affordable housing was the inflation rate because it's too expensive.
Yeah, and he voted as a city council member. I know he voted to support Cop City, so he's been a long time supporter of this.
In the summer, when it was politically expedient in 2020, he voted to reallocate and hold money from the police budget to be reassessed. He's a political opportunist and a moral coward.
That's interesting. So this was the height of defund the police, and so he was placating a group of voters.
But then he was running for office, and the narratives have changed because of significant Republican propaganda, and now he's singing a different tune.
Now he's singing a different tune. You know, I'm looking up some of the corporate donors for the police foundation. Coca-Cola's on there. I mean, so there's a lot of big money coming into this. I know Color of Change has been trying to expose some of these. Doing an excellent job of doing that.
Coca-Cola, Bank of America, it broke my heart, but Waffle House, yeah.
No, and those all those organizations too.
Foundations. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to mention in case folks aren't aware. I mean, I know you know this obviously, but all those organizations you mentioned, they have a big footprint in the South in general, and specifically in Atlanta, especially Coca-Cola. I mean, they have a big base there, right? And
Correct.
You know, Waffle House, big in the Southeast. I mean, all those organizations are, you know, very much dominating in Atlanta.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I think that we should look at the ecosystem in which the Atlanta Police Foundation is building itself. One, they advocate for a policy where people are locked up for longer. Now, there's a second thing. They also have been doing these things called the At Promise Youth Centers, where it's supposed to be like a kid daycare to like improve their image. However, the city ends up footing the bill for a lot of that. Now, mind you, this is, you know, the same city in which officers on their point-based system are given a quarter point for answering service calls, you know, when people actually want the police to come.
Right.
But they're credited 5 points for arresting a juvenile.
Are you kidding me?
So what this leads one to believe is that they're incentivized to start somebody in the system farther than they are.
God, dude.
To actually care for.
Yeah, it seems like that's backwards. You think they would incentivize them answering calls that are where they're needed versus that's insane.
That's some evil shit is what that is.
Evil.
That is
no,
some
when
evil
CBS
shit.
46 was reporting on this, officers were saying, yeah, we're kind of disincentivized to answer 911 calls. You know, especially yeah, like, yo, this is really bad.
That is insane. How does this get fixed? I mean, this is some of the worst. That is shocking to me. Maybe it shouldn't be, but it is. I mean, that's even bad for like bad policing. You know what I'm saying? This is a level I can't wrap my head around. Why would they de-incentivize? You're basically saying don't do your job, but go ahead and lock up innocent kids.
I think this is the point, and I think that this is the point that so-called radicals, for instance, have been making for quite some time.
Right.
It's clear what their job actually is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, and like that incentive system. I mean, y'all put it on paper and hung it up. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
Like,
and obviously they didn't think it was a problem if people knew it. That's what's really bizarre. It's like, because anybody with
they did. A police officer took a picture of it. And then the person that's now the police chief, who I believe was the deputy at the time, he was like, oh, no, this is about the time that it takes to answer these things. Mm-hmm. And so the response was, well, that's not true. Because we only get a quarter point for answering service calls, but we get 1.5 points at least just for traffic stops. It's about generating revenue if we're actually to look at the correlations.
Right.
I mean, these people really just treat us like we're stupid. But here we are.
Here we are. So what's up next? I know there's a big protest on Saturday night. So all of our listeners, I'm actually going to be flying to Atlanta tomorrow. I will be covering the protest on Saturday night at 6 Atlanta time, and also trying to get some coverage of the forest. I might get arrested, I guess, but I'll see what I can do.
It's an occupational hazard. So.
I already contacted my attorney and said I'm writing your phone number on my arm in case.
Oh, for sure. Write it on your leg too.
Yeah, there you go.
With a Sharpie.
Right, with a Sharpie, exactly. So it can't
we've done this before.
Yeah. So, but I would imagine the tensions now mounting, because the police are now saying, well, we have a martyr. This guy got shot by your team, and there's truly somebody that's been killed on the other for no reason. So where do we go from here in your mind?
I really don't know.
Yeah, hard to say.
God knows we've tried. we have, gone through all the proper channels, so to speak.
Yeah.
We've gone through all this. We got mass support for the movement, didn't make a dent in this. We have a wide coalition of people that care. And
Yeah, it's insane that the politicians aren't listening to their constituency. The constituents are saying, we don't want this. Is it? No, I know, fair. It's on brand, and it's not shocking because it's often the case, but it still infuriates me. I don't know why. I just can't
I think
infuriated.
I think in this particular case, it is just so on the nose, and it is
so
just
on the nose.
Because it's
so
like they're literally building a freaking Death Star and telling everybody we don't give a shit, and it's just
a lot of money. The money
criminal.
going into this, the amount of acres, like it's crazy to me. The fact that you're looking at a city at the size of Atlanta having a bigger training facility than the LAPD does is absolutely mind-numbing.
Yeah, and they already have the campus of what Atlanta Metropolitan State College, and they've been like running this narrative, we don't have any place to put this training center, and this one place that we hadn't been spending the money allocated to maintain is now eroding away, God forbid. But they had a whole campus to themselves in the meantime they just weren't telling us about. So everything that they're doing is made up. Luckily, I just happened to decide to read the budget on Martin Luther King Day. And then I just saw this in the fine print that they were like listing that off as one of their accolades for what they did last year. So,
where can people go to have an ear on the ground to your organization, and especially as this particular story continues to unfold, like where can they go to learn more and follow along?
Sure. You can follow me at Beloved Commune on Instagram. I'm not great at the interwebs, but I'm good at giving information. So I'm, working on that aspect. But also and a place to really watch, just because of the volume at which they're arresting people and the level of the charges. Keep in mind the Atlanta Solidarity Fund, because they have been, supporting and caring for us and making sure that people aren't going through, god awful financial strain.
Well, that's just it, right?
It's
not just the arrest, it's everything that comes after that can destroy families. I don't know if people realize that.
Yeah.
Is the bulk of the arrest coming from trespassing charges, other than obviously the domestic terrorism is the worst case?
Oh, yeah. They've been swinging for the fences lately. They're just going straight domestic terrorism. They literally have been shooting people with rubber bullets, pepper spraying them, yanking them out of trees forcibly, then labeling them domestic terrorists. This is crazy.
It is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And it would be so much different if they just listened to, the people they're supposed to listen to, their constituents.
And meanwhile, and here is another, one of the asymmetries, we don't know how it was that this person died. We don't know if they could have been saved.
Don't know. Yeah.
We don't know anything. All I know is that there was a Georgia State Patrol officer that had the highway shut down for him to be taken to the hospital.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
And this is how incongruent the force is. And we're still being vilified in the media. I don't know what to tell you, but I can't judge anybody for any of the decisions that they make and their actions against this, because God knows that we've tried.
No, I agree. The fact that this has been going on for over a year and it just keeps escalating, and no matter who the administration is, politically speaking, nothing changes. It just,
and mind you, City Council had this, it was jumped over City Council's head in April of 2021 when the mayor approved this without them even being
behind closed doors, so to speak.
And then it was only because of people and activists getting involved and bringing this to the fore that it even went back to City Council.
Right. And that was when Bottoms was still mayor, right? That wasn't Andre. Yes. It was Bottoms that was mayor at that time.
Yep. Shortly before she announced that she wouldn't even be running for another term.
Yeah. So she's now part of the Biden administration, for those folks that are paying attention. So this is now 2 Democratic mayors that have.
And the head of the FBI used to be either a prosecutor or a judge in the Northern District of Georgia.
I didn't know that. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
It's deep.
This is this is deep.
It's deep. All right, so we are going to be keeping an eye on this. Hopefully, I see you in Atlanta on Saturday. We can talk some more, but we'll be flying in Friday tomorrow, and we are going to plan on keeping everybody posted on this growing situation and what happens next. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it,
Rest
Matthew.
in peace, Tortuguita. Thank you for having me, y'all.
Thank you.
Take care.
Wow, that's horrible. That's
no,
just
this isn't a situation that is escalating. It is beyond comprehension. Honestly, if the political system wasn't as corrupted as it is, this wouldn't even have gotten to this particular spot, because they would have listened to their constituents. They would have said, okay, let's not do this. Let's find something else to do. And it's also a very unnecessary facility, as we're hearing. Yeah. There's just no point to this. There's no reason that the city of Atlanta needs a facility that is twice the size of LAPD's facility. LAPD is responsible for 10 million people in the basin here. It's crazy.
No, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's heartbreaking enough that they have a campus to themselves. So instead of like, oh, what goes on here? Higher learning? No. We train cops how to kill people. But this isn't enough. We need to destroy a forest for them too. And oh, by the way, when we do that, it's going to poison water easier. It's just, I mean, you couldn't pitch this stuff as a script. It's too freaking dystopian.
Couldn't. It's crazy.
So, let's jump to what's on the docket, Colin? Oh man, Trump and Desantis.
Oh right, okay.
So Desantis might be he might be the favorite here. Apparently,
think he is
there's more reports out there, folks, that Desantis is basically overtaking Trump for the GOP guy. And you guys know me, I will not be shy about this. I will keep screaming this at the top of my lungs, because if he gets in the White House, I want to at least be able to know, okay, I did everything reasonably within my power. Ron DeSantis is the most dangerous person in American politics by far. I know that's saying an awful lot. He is the most dangerous by far. He would make Trump look like a freaking Boy Scout. He would make Biden look like a freaking Boy Scout.
I agree.
He is competent. He is kind of just boring enough that you don't realize how freaking dangerous he is. But you look at what he's trying to do in Florida. You look at the way he is literally trying to stamp out the very existence of transgender people. He's pulling some more shit right now in colleges where if there's ever been any gender affirmation care, they need to report it. I mean, this is.
I mean, now he's trying to outlaw African studies. Like, it's like
he's trying. Yeah, I mean, the stuff that this guy does, and he dresses it up.
He's beyond dog whistling now. He's 100% trying to appeal to white supremacy in an open fashion where he's not even worried about it. I think also the other aspect of DeSantis that bothers me is he's very committed to his religious beliefs in an extreme way.
He's a theocrat. I mean, it's like you can't. I mean, it's not. Oh, he's a theocrat. He's a straight up theocrat who wants to impose his own religious beliefs on you in the form of laws. And it's not the religious belief of, hey, let's have peace and treat each other with respect. It's the, hey, gay person, you're going to hell. Hey, like that's what this guy is all about. He is also another neocon. I mean, this guy is extremely dangerous. And should he get to the White House, freaking wow. Especially
scary.
When you look at the circumstantial stuff that's going on in this country anyway. And I think if he's the nominee, he'll win. I have a feeling. I mean, I have a feeling it's hard to say right now because we still got 2 years to get through.
Yeah.
But with the way things are going.
But the way things are going, I mean, all right. So, there's a hardcore white grievance base that we kind of actually just talked about in the last segment too, right? So these are guys that are basically saying, what is the government doing for me? I'm poor. You have to be female or brown or black or whatever to get special treatment. And he's just like stoking those flames more and more, which is in the fascist playbook. But the fact that he's not even saying CRT is bad now. We've gone beyond critical race theory. He's actually saying, no, we should not teach African-American studies at all, which is that. Are you kidding me, bro? Like, come on. That's just full blown white supremacy. I think, I also think the other side of the equation is that Trump is, he's dying. His idea of all that energy that he had created back in 2020, it's dying. It's not there anymore. He doesn't seem to be that committed to, churning up all of his fan base. They're sort of turning away from him, looking for guidance from DeSantis, I think, at this point.
Yeah, and I think Trump just kind of, I think Trump gets plenty of clout over on like, what's it, Truth Social? That's his big one, right?
Yeah.
I think he gets plenty of clout over on there, and that's kind of all he really needs, if he just sort of has
he's not out there
niche.
like, hey, you
Trump's
see his
just a
recent
narcissist.
Speeches. He is just, but his speeches are like really boring now. Like he used to be animated and trying to suck these guys in. Now I don't know what it is. He lost his mojo. How do you describe this? But he's definitely not the guy he was in 2020.
Maybe that Diet Coke button was what really kept him going, and without that, he just doesn't have it anymore. That's possible. I can't disprove it.
But it's weird. Like he used to be so animated and passionate and horrible things that he would say, but he was very animated and passionate about. So he would liven up the base. Now his horrible things fall a bit bland for you. I don't know. I haven't watched any of his recent speeches. I'll take your word for it that he is less enthused, but he's less enthused, less everything. So I think that base really needs to be animated by something, right? They respond.
Maybe he's playing too much golf. He's worn out. I don't know. Like maybe he's just. But no, but you're right. It's like he doesn't really have the momentum that he had.
He doesn't have the momentum, yeah.
And DeSantis is sort of swooping in, and it's like. Yeah. So, Colin, pull up the headline just so we could show people what we're talking about here.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm not gonna be quiet about this guy. New poll: DeSantis beats Trump head-to-head among Trump voters. So, MAGA has a new guy.
MAGA has a new leader.
President Donald Trump leads Florida in the new Republicans, but DeSantis leads Trump in a head-to-head matchup. Oh, okay. So out of all the Republicans, I guess like DeSantis is being spread out a little bit. But when it's just DeSantis and Trump, DeSantis beats him, right? That's pretty much what that is claiming.
Yeah.
So, but here's the thing, though. I think this is still, politically good news for DeSantis because who else is going to step up in that primary? It's Trump or DeSantis is going to get the gig. I think that's pretty certain. Now, again, we still got 2 years to go, so things could change in 2 years. There could be, a new superstar. there could be a new GOP superstar.
There could be new MAGA mojo dude that comes out.
There
of nowhere.
could be someone who rides down on a Jewish space laser and takes over. We don't know, but. It could happen. Like, they could get a freaking, who knows? Like, someone could get some kind of bump. And by bump, I don't mean cocaine. I actually mean, like, a political bump. Although it might be both. But if that doesn't happen, I think it's either going to be Trump or DeSantis. I see it being DeSantis. And again, if nothing changes momentum-wise, I see DeSantis winning. Because I think, you're going to have 2 more years of just... a lot of nothing or, slightly worse. And you're going to have, a complete mishandling of the pandemic as there has been. That's
the question. I think the question is so Biden, I'm assuming Biden's going to be the Democratic nominee and he's not going to step back.
Which great idea. Great idea, folks.
Yeah, I know. Putting that aside, putting all the problems there aside, I do think what it boils down to is going to be another thing where like, DeSantis is so bad, we're going to vote for the other guy, just even if we don't like him, just to keep this guy out of office, which is sort of how Biden won against Trump, in my opinion.
Oh, I completely agree. That's how Biden won. I think that Biden just won because people were so fed up with Trump's handling of the pandemic, and they just realized like this guy can't be in charge. So you don't even think
it was the white nationalist dog whistling or any of that other stuff? You think it was mainly the pandemic? I do. I could see that.
I do.
Yeah.
I wish I wish you were right.
It was the former?
I wish it was both. I wish it was both. But honestly, I think that so many people, because that's why people who didn't
Which
vote.
is actually kind of scary, Ron, when you think about it. I mean,
Oh, it's extremely scary. Are you kidding? Like, yeah, it's horrifying. Like, I mean, it's just people showed up and voted for the first time in years and years and years, and they're like, well, it's because this guy he's just goo. And it's just like, oh, really? Like George W. Bush didn't give you any red flags. You didn't think maybe I should
George W.
try?
Bush in many ways was worse than Trump.
He was way worse than Trump.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? And part of it was because he had 8 years and he didn't have a pandemic. But, you know, like I mean, if Trump would have had 8 years, who knows? But I mean, if we're being objective here, George W. Bush was way worse. He accomplished way worse things. He didn't tweet as mean, sure, but he did like way worse things. Trump didn't have a neocon agenda that invaded multiple countries and a war machine that was put on indefinite for 20 plus years. Bush put all that in motion. The Patriot Act. Obama kept it on autopilot, sure. But that was all the mechanics of the Bush administration. Trump didn't have anything close to that. He didn't even get Iran. Now that was probably because of the pandemic. He was itching for Iran, but he didn't get it because of the pandemic. He wanted Iran. That's why when people are like, well, Trump was a non-interventionist. That's cool fan fiction. He wasn't.
That is cool fan fiction because that's not entirely true. I agree with you.
But
he just didn't have the
objectively,
opportunity.
He didn't have the opportunity. But still, objectively, he was nothing compared to frickin' George W. Bush. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying about DeSantis. I after the Bush administration, I collectively sighed, as many people did, and I said, well, I'm pretty sure that will be the worst president I ever see. Because if we have a worse one, we won't have a country anymore. I think DeSantis has what it takes to be worse than Bush.
I agree with you.
I really do. I think if DeSantis, and I'm not trying to be like alarmist here. I'm just being honest.
No, I agree with you.
If DeSantis gets in the White House, I mean,
he has like the combination that's so deadly. He has a lot of the same sort of right-wing populist, I'm using my scare quotes, viewpoints that Trump has, married to these neocon foreign policy ideas. I agree with you. It could be very bad.
Yeah. I mean, and he's very, and the other thing too is he's proven how effective he is policy-wise.
Right.
He has, and you know, we've covered it a lot here. He has effectively passed some really terrible policy under this sort of guise of making it seem reasonable. No, it's not about just brutalizing transgender youth and making their lives even harder than it already is. It's about quote unquote parental choice. No, it's not about, it's about freedom in schools. It's about this, it's about that. And really it's like, no, this is like a neo-fascist agenda where you're stamping out groups of people. It's racist, it's rooted in white supremacy and brutality. And this is what you want to impose on the country. I mean, this guy is, I mean, we've never seen anything like it. We've had 40 years of Reagan or slightly worse than Reagan. Right now, we have Rip Van Winkle Reagan. This is going to be, DeSantis would be way worse than Reagan. That, I mean, like that's, and it's hard to imagine.
Van Winkle Reagan. I might have to steal that one. That's pretty funny.
It should be a t-shirt.
Rip Van Winkle Reagan. Yeah, no, I don't disagree with any of that.
So I don't know what else we could say at this point. I mean, it's like,
That's
but
it.
I mean, we got to talk. I can't not talk about this because I really do. And I'm not the kind of guy who gets like overly alarmist about politicians. Like, I'm just like, Trump's just a narcissist moron. He wasn't even worse than Bush. You know, Biden's just another frickin' Reagan style neocon, whatever. He's a familiar enemy. They were all familiar enemies. Trump just tweeted a little meaner, whatever. This guy is not a frick. I mean, this guy would make Dick Cheney seem ineffective in comparison. And that guy was a neocon evil mastermind. This guy would beat him out because you see the seeds he's able to plant just in his state. Now, granted, that state is Florida, which has a lot of questionable politics even before DeSantis, but still, like, it's like, this guy, yikes. So before we get to Kshama, can we do I know we got Kshama on the docket. Well, can we Colin, did you make that quick that Amazon video real quick?
Oh yeah. Let's
can we
take a-
hop?
yeah.
Were you able to do that clip? Calling on the ones and twos, by the way, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, I have it.
Oh, cool. All right. If we
Let's
could do
play that. Yeah.
really, really quick. So let me just set this up real quick. Then we're going to talk Kshama as we want. So there's an organization called the DARE Institute, which stands for Distribution AI Research. And they did a very intensive deep dive as to how Amazon steals wages via AI technology. Now, there's a three-pronged way they do this. We're going to watch a snippet on the middle way, which involves an app called Mentor. But I'll give
Yeah.
you a quick summary of the three ways. So first of all, when you're a delivery person for Amazon, you're not an employee, you're a contractor. They sell it like, oh, you're going to run your own business and blah, blah, blah. But in reality, what they do is they treat you like an employee when it's convenient for them. In other words, you get all the bad stuff, none of the good stuff. Here's what I mean. One of the things they do, they make you attend meetings, but you're a contractor, so you're not paid for this. Now, that might just seem like, well, that's kind of annoying. But in the course of a year, that's thousands of dollars they're basically stealing from people.
Right.
Here's the other way that they steal wages. It's via this thing called the Mentor app. Now, let's watch the video because this describes what the Mentor app is. But it's pretty freaking disturbing.
The next vehicle for wage theft is the Mentor app. This is where surveillance becomes an issue. Amazon drivers are surveilled in multiple ways. The Mentor app, AI-powered cameras inside and outside of vans, Ring doorbells and security systems, as well as the handheld scanner provided by Amazon called a Rabbit. The Rabbit has your route for the day and is used to scan delivered packages. The Mentor app is mandatory and can be downloaded onto your Rabbit or onto your personal phone. It was created by a company called eDriving and is said to detect dangerous, risky, or distracted driving. It provides you with a 7-day average score. The best score a driver can get is 850. Anything under 500, you're said to be uninsurable. Scores go down based on perceived dangerous driving. Look at the 3-point infraction for hard cornering. Let's say someone's child could suddenly run out into the street to chase a loose ball. Happens all the time. I swerve to avoid hitting the child, but will then be dinged for risky driving by Mentor. Once a driver is hit with an infraction, the Mentor app will assign them a playlist. Playlists are mini lessons between 15 and 30 minutes with questions and interactive simulations, which are supposed to help the driver eliminate bad driving habits. I averaged about 1 playlist per shift when Mentor was on my personal phone and around 3 to 4 per shift when it was downloaded onto the Rabbit. Ignoring playlists is grounds for termination. But this is off the clock homework. On the modest side, let's say a driver receives 1 playlist per shift. And let's say that half are 15 minutes long and half are 30 minutes long. I made $20 an hour when I was a driver, so let's use that number. For all full-time employees, that's 5 playlists a week, between 50 and 52 weeks out of the year, because a lot of working class folks don't take vacations. Now you're looking at around 250 to 260 playlists per year. If half of those are 15 minutes long and the other half are 30 minutes long, you're looking at between $1,875 and $1,950 in wage theft per year.
So that you have this app and it monitors your driving, but again, it's an AI thing, monitor your driving, which leaves a bit to be desired. Like the example they gave, if you swerve or stop because like a small child ran out in the road to get a ball, or maybe there's a small animal, you're going to get penalized for that. And so the other thing, the third thing, now this is what makes it a trifecta of just like, wow, this is terrible. The third thing is the quotas themselves, which they supervise you with AIs. Now, how how extensive are the quotas that you need to reach? Well, this is why we see the reports of people urinating in bottles,
Right.
monitoring what they eat so they don't have to go to the bathroom at all during their shift, because if they do that, they won't reach their quota. Now, the person who made this video, who is a research fellow named Adrienne Williams with the DARE Institute, she was also a driver for Amazon at one point. And she said one of the things she did, this is what she had to do. She would click her seatbelt and then just sort of sit on it throughout her day, because just the action of taking your seatbelt on and off when you had to go drop off a package, that action alone costs so much time that they wouldn't make their quotas. That's how
dangerous.
that's how nuts these quotas are. It's
That's
extremely dangerous, but they're putting these people in a situation where it's like well, if you don't hit these quotas, you get fired. If you get dinged on this app, you have to do work off the clock. I mean, you're putting people in an extremely dangerous situation. And by the way, you're putting all of society in a dangerous situation, because guess what? Amazon vehicles are freaking everywhere. So next time you see an Amazon vehicle, you have to know, gee, that person might be in a horrible situation where they think, gee, I can either swerve to not hit this squirrel, or I just got to hit the squirrel, because if I don't, I'm going to get dinged with a penalty. I'm going to have to do this homework. I won't be able to pick up my kid, and I might get fired. And by the way, I have this ridiculous quota to reach. It's freaking sickening.
Yeah, it really is. It's
So-
disturbing. And it's where we're headed, though. I mean, I don't think it's just Amazon.
We're
that's going
there.
down this. We're there. Yeah.
Yeah, I
going
mean,
down
we're there. I
this.
mean, yeah, like, and it's not just Amazon either. This is how AI, and
It's
this is
dystopian.
how, you know, like the digital space impacts regular people. And this is how it is anti-labor. This is how it is anti-worker. I mean, we covered the story about how they're now getting landlords to have more surveillance outside of apartment buildings, so it's easier to evict people. This is how this stuff connects, folks. No pun intended. So yeah, AI is stealing wages. AI is anti-labor and anti-worker when it's used like this, which it's used like this all the time.
Right.
So
It's probably
should
the
we-
only way it's used right now.
exactly. So should we talk Kshama Sawant? This has been
Yes.
super trending. Kshama. So for those of you who don't know, I'm sure a lot of you already know who Kshama Sawant is, but she is a city council member in Seattle. She is, in my opinion, pretty much the best person in office, period. I mean,
Yeah.
I think she's a great advocate who is using electoral politics for the better. You know, I don't live in her district, nor do I live in her
Right.
city, so I'm sure she has not been completely flawless with every decision she's made. Who is? But I think she's one of the best we got, if not the best we got. And it looks like she's going to be leaving office to do a different project. Let's pull that tweet up. So she's going to be starting a project with the here we go.
There it is.
So I'm not running again for city council. This is according to Kshama Sawant. I'm launching a national movement called Workers Strike Back. We will also be launching a video broadcast to bring socialist politics and strategy to working people. So I have mixed feelings.
I have mixed feelings too.
So here's the thing. I'll give my, so this project sounds awesome, and I'm so stoked to see where it goes, and I think it's so cool she's doing this. The other side of it, though, which I guess we kind of already said, she's one of the best people in electoral politics. Now she won't be there anymore. So it's kind of like,
Right.
well, yeah.
Where is
I mean,
she going to be
that's-
more effective, right? You know, I mean,
That's the big question. I mean, maybe this is her Eugene Debs moment, because it's like think about like Eugene Debs. He was so effective outside of the electoral realm to the
Right,
point where
right.
most people don't even know or remember that he was in office for 2 years. You know, but he was in office
that's
for 2
true.
years. So maybe, I mean, I don't know. What do you think? Like it's hard. Like it's like, this is awesome, but we're losing her here. I don't know.
I agree with you. I don't know where she's going to be more effective. I mean, I think she might think she's more effective going into this next position because she can train other folks to be successful doing what she's already done. And maybe if that's the case, there'll be multiple of her out in the world doing that. But that might not necessarily end up being the case. And I think she's done a great job at her position where she's at now, she's moving the Overton window back this way, you know, in many ways.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I like Kshama Sawant, but I'd be curious to ask her that. I mean, we should try to get her on the show. I mean, this was breaking today, so it was kind of tough to
Right.
like just reach out like just a couple minutes beforehand. But like, I'd be curious to ask her that. Like, why do you think you'd be more effective here? Um,
I would
she's
ask her that if we had a chance to. We should try to get her on the show.
I would love to talk to her about it. I mean, I think I think she's obviously extremely intelligent, and I definitely, I mean, I trust her judgment. Like, if she thinks that she's better off here, I trust her judgment. But you kind of wonder, like, well, will that be the case though?
Yeah.
Like, is that, like, because what if this thing doesn't necessarily work or take off? Then it's like Seattle just lost, their biggest lefty advocate. And honestly, even though she was just in local office, she was having a big national
Yeah.
effect.
I agree.
And, so it's like you kind of, yeah, there's mixed feelings. It's like maybe this is her Eugene Debs moment. But it's also like, if somebody's like, oh, who's one person that you can say is like using the office really constructively, she would be my first person in most cases. So now I don't have her to point to, like,
I know, right? I don't know.
it's a tough call. So
tough
yeah,
call.
let's try to talk to her and let's ask her whatever. I mean, she talks a lot about like frustrations with just electoralism, and she talks a lot about frustrations at the federal level. And she mentions, how the railroad, how the railroad workers were sold out by everybody, and she mentions
Yeah.
that failure. She mentioned that the squad didn't stick up for them. So she basically said that she needs to really be on the ground for the workers directly, which I totally get that. But it's like, yeah, but the other side of it, though, just strategically, we still need some people on the inside too. You know what I mean? Like we
I
still
do know
need.
what you mean.
So yeah, mixed feelings. It's tough.
feelings.
It's tough. Should we get to
Some
should we
super
get to our
chats?
super chats and
We
tour dates,
should,
and
'cause
then
our guest here for Right Wing Insanity is in
yeah,
the,
there's a live right wing insanity today, folks. We're doing it
That's
live,
right.
Bill
We're doing
O'Reilly
it live.
style. I'm gonna flip
And
off a
Ron,
camera.
please feel free to stay with us to do our Right Wing Insanity roundup. We'll do that at the top because I always
Okay.
enjoy your comedic input on that.
All right, cool. Well, let's do the chats here real quick. And real quick,
Okay.
I'll also mention where people can find me. Folks, I got some tour dates coming up. January 28th, Tucson, Arizona. Get your tickets now because that's a stand-up show and the premiere screening of my short film Loner that I'm stoked for you to see. That's January 28th. Get tickets at romplacone.com. Grab them. Don't wait. And I also just announced Madison and Minneapolis. So I got some LA shows coming
all right.
up. I got Madison, I got Minneapolis. So tickets for all those shows, romplacone.com. And Henry, what's up, Henry? How you doing? Henry says maybe they should build a 20-foot high wall around Cop City and then put every cop in the country there and not allow any of them to leave. Henry, you have found a way to make me support Cop City. There is politics is a sticky business, and there's
Can
nuance.
we add like 90% of the politicians as well? I mean,
Yeah, let's throw them in there too, and they can all have they can have Cop City together. They could just be like, here's
they can
I
rule
like
over
it.
their fake city they build. Like that's so funny.
Way to make
That's-
lemonade out of lemons, Henry. I like it. Well done. If only. Aggravated progressive Tina, stay out of the Waffle House. They're dangerous. Be careful down there, though. Seriously, not. I mean, if you want to eat at a Waffle House, go for it. I meant the the protest stuff. But yeah, be careful. Dorian Scott, what's up? Outlaw qualified immunity of the police now. Amen.
You know what? I think
Amen.
this is a really this is a very solid point you make, and I actually think that it's the right thing to do. Oftentimes, because there are there's no liability attached to their actions, they get away with what they do, and then other cops do the same thing and get away with it. They don't think they're ever going to be, held to account for any of the wrong things that they do.
Mm-hmm.
It's very problematic.
Yeah. Teresa, what's up, Teresa? How are you? And thank you so much for the Super Chat contribution. You help keep the show on the air for Fly Chomper Fly. Aw, thanks for that. I love Fly Chomper Fly. I think it should be a Cramp song if it wasn't already. I mean, it won't be if it isn't already, because like they're not around anymore. But I think it should be a Cramp song.
It sounds like a Cramp song.
It sounds like it's already a Cramp song, and it might be. It might just be one I don't know. But Teresa, thank you for that. I know Fly Chomper Fly, also a regular viewer, so thank you very much for that, Teresa. Despus Fleisch, hope all is well in Germany. I wonder when the cops get face covering helmets to make them look like more evil B movie troopers.
I think they already do. Honestly, if you've seen,
they already have
outfits,
some stuff. Yeah,
it's kind of wild. Did everybody see that? In fact, speaking of, did everybody see that footage of the officers getting stuck in the mud while they were trying to clear the environmentalist camp that Greta was at?
Yeah, that was awesome. That was pretty funny. That was pretty
Their
freaking
gear
funny.
was so heavy and cumbersome that they couldn't get out of the mud. I mean, it's just like, why are you?
You
guys
know what it
wearing
reminded me of?
Ridiculous amount of gear to like break up a protest. It's so ridiculous.
It
was the perfect karma, honestly. It was like, well, there you go. You're wearing 80 pounds of gear that you don't need to be wearing.
Yeah, and now you're sinking.
And now you're
Way to go. You're sinking into the earth. If you believe in a god, that god is trying to tell you something.
It's just so ridiculous.
If you believe
that they
it
go out looking like this to deal with protesters. It's it's just absurd.
The world is telling you don't do that.
Don't
Literally,
do that.
the earth is trying to swallow you.
Stop
being
treating
a
your
dick.
citizens like they're enemy combatants, for Pete's sake.
Yeah. When it gets to the point where the earth just decides to eat you, maybe it's time to rethink everything. Just rethink everything. Be like, I put on this ridiculous gimmick, and now the earth is trying to eat me. So it reminded me of this is a bit of a reach, I don't know, but like you know how they had those X-Men cartoons in the early 90s? That like the original like Stan Lee X-Men.
Yeah, vaguely. I do. Yeah.
Don't pretend you didn't watch it. It was awesome. Everybody loved it. Those cartoons were genius.
I got Stanley's autograph somewhere. So
did you?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Well, the X-Men were actually a very forward-thinking show in a lot of ways.
I agree.
We'll get into that another time. But like But they had those Sentinels. They were like these giant robots that were trying to hunt all the mutants. And I remember at one point in an episode, like the Sentinels are not super bright, so they just led them into like quicksand, and the Sentinels just like started sinking, and they were just like, "Oh, we're not programmed on what to do here." Except in this case, it was humans who didn't know what to do as they were sinking. So.
That's right.
Yeah. Jason, what's up, buddy? Testing out the super chat. Happy New Year, all. Great guest and discussion today. Looking forward to more in 23. Thank you so much, Jason.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
Happy
very
New
much.
Year.
Aggravated Progressive, what's up, buddy? Thanks for the super sticker.
Yay.
Why don't we see the super sticker?
I know. It's annoying that it doesn't come up
Is there a
there.
thing that like, because I know it's like actually a thing.
It
For the
keeps
longest
happening.
time, I thought people were
Just a
just
super
writing
sticker.
and I thought that was funny. I was like, well, that's creative and funny. They're just writing it. But then I realized, like, no, they're actually sending it. It just appears as like super sticker. I don't know. We'll uncover this mystery. Maybe the folks at Google will take pity on us and let us see our super stickers someday. But thank you very much, Aggravated Progressive. Hope all is well in Gainesville, Florida. Glenn Pollitt, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. But Glenn, thank you very much. Trump's been off Twitter and Facebook. He can't wind up the libs in his echo chamber, which is what his base loves so much.
You know what? I agree. That is
agree
100% part of it. I think that is why he lost his mojo.
Well, you know what?
That is yes, that's true.
Here's
it's true.
Here's
it
an
doesn't
analogy.
feed the like it's not being fed in the way. Yeah.
Well, you know what's interesting? Here's an analogy that I think like kind of makes sense. You know how Howard Stern, when Howard Stern was on terrestrial radio, he
used to like do
huge,
and now he doesn't do any of it.
Yeah, and he was also huge.
Right.
And part of the reason he was so huge was because there was sort of this David versus Goliath thing where he was like pissing off all these people. Then when he went to Sirius XM, they were like, say whatever you want. And he
doesn't say whatever he wants anymore. He's kind of like just boring, like podcaster guy. Like it's bizarre, right?
Probably. I don't know. I haven't watched his show in years, but like, you know, I mean, I think it's like once he got on a platform where he could just say the 7 dirty words and no one gave a hoot. Yeah, like that was like his mojo. Like it's just like, oh, dude, what made you so entertaining was that you were like skating on this fence and like you're like, I'm gonna say pussy willow because I can't actually say. Well, once you can say whatever you want, you know, like a big like that edge is sort of gone. So I think there's a similar thing here. I think
I
that
agree.
Glenn is 100% right. Trump's big thing is he was pissing off all these people. And in the minds of some, folks who are kind of delusional about the world, they thought this billionaire plutocrat was somehow an outsider fighting
Right.
Goliath, which again, cool fan fiction. But nonetheless, people believed it. So now that that's not the case anymore, he's just preaching to the choir
And
on
an
his
echo chamber on
literally
Truth
his
Social,
own freaking network. Like it's not like it doesn't take as much. So now you have the nice little subtle fascists in Ron DeSantis who is just going to actually win people over, which is freaking frightening. So yeah, Glenn, excellent point. Thank you for that.
Yep, 100% agree.
Christina Suozo. Ciao, Christina. Hi, Ron and Tina. I never miss your show, and I love Kim, Steve, and Ty too. Thank you so much for that, Christina. Happy New Year, and thank you very, very much. And K-Day says, Kshama, Sarah Nelson, and Chris Small is about the best we got out here. I feel you. I mean, I hope we get to talk to Kshama next week. Let's try to make that happen. Because I'd be curious, why she decided to go this route. I mean, I'm happy for her, but it's a little bit of a we're like, that was one of our few allies in the electoral space.
Nervous is the largest response to the poll so far. So
we did a poll? I didn't know we did a poll. Oh, cool. All right.
Come on now.
Well, it's okay. It's okay to be nervous. Fly chopper fly.
Complete. So nervous 46%, excited 26%, sad 26%. So
that's
mixed.
fair.
Everybody's mixed.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. It's okay. It's okay to be like, well, I'm bummed out because I think she was in like a really good place.
Yeah.
It's also cool to be like, I'm really exciting because I think this new project might be what gets her to the next level or what gets the movement to the next level or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's also okay to be like, gee, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know is the most like it's easy to kind of fall there. I mean, that's where I'm at. Like, I'm like, I don't freaking, I mean, I don't know. Like so I get nervous. I totally get that. Fly chomper fly got through on another device. Thank you. Got through on another device. Convoluted. Thank you so much, Fly Chomper. Thanks for making that happen. I appreciate that. Multiple devices to get through. So thank you very much, Teresa, Despush Fleisch, Jason R, Aggravated Progressive, Glenn, Christina, and Fly Chomper Fly. We got to get to Right Wing Insanity Report, so we're going to kind of jump ahead here.
Are we ready to go to Right Wing Insanity Report? We're done.
Do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, do it. We got it.
I need my graphic first. Yes, Right Wing Insanity Report. Is everybody ready?
It looks like all those guys are chasing you, and Candace Owens is jealous.
Yeah.
It looks like Tina, please hang out with us. And Candace is like, what the hell?
Colin, I love your artwork. It's hilarious. All right. So Right Wing Insanity Report today, we're looking at disinformation, how wealthy right-wing elites sort of churn up disinformation to get their base riled up and how it, gives them money back. It's a vicious cycle. So I'm going to bring in our guest today. You know him, you love him. Walker Bragman has been working in this area now for, couple years, I would say. You are my go-to expert on fleshing out where all this wealthy right-wing elite money is coming from. So we're going to talk about how it affects COVID disinformation, how it's funding Candace Owens, which I think is a wild story. But before we get to that, let's do our right-wing insanity roundup with Ron still with us so we can get a little humor in here. So welcome,
No
Walker.
promises, but I'll try.
Thanks for having me.
All right, right off the top, I want to play a video that came out this week. Nick Fuentes, your favorite white supremacist, he's like taking it to the next level now. He's not even hiding his adoration of Hitler. Let's go ahead and play that clip.
I saw something on Twitter. I don't even know if this is true, but something on Twitter said like all of Hitler's girlfriends were 16 and 17. And Alex Jones, I don't even know if that's true, but if that is, that's probably why Alex Jones called Hitler a pedophile. And it's like, you faggots would be saying the same thing about Hitler. MLK was a rapist, and Hitler was a pedophile. It's like, you know what? The world's a little bit more complicated than that. Okay? The world's a little bit more complicated than you're making it out to be. Hitler was a pedophile and kind of a pagan. It's like, well, he was also really fucking cool. So, time to grow up. We're not children anymore. Am I right? Am I right, boys? Am I right? Let's go. He was also really fucking cool. And any boy knows that. Anybody that watches these videos where he's rolling down the street and stuff, it's like, this guy's awesome. This guy's cool.
So I gotta say this. Well, I mean, I'll say this. This is going to be the weirdest season of The Bachelor ever. I think it's really bizarre. They opened with this guy. I don't know what he's trying to do. I mean, what the hell was that? Like,
What the hell was that? Exactly.
What the hell did I just watch? Well, first of all, I think we can all acknowledge that he's kind of like Trump, but like he's got a very punchable face.
I actually see. I don't know. I don't want to get conspiratorial here, but no one can disprove this. I actually think Nick Fuentes is just a scarecrow, and it's like Steve Bannon pulling strings, so I'm like, I think that's all it is. I just don't think that it's real. I think it's just a simulation. I don't think his new dating profile is going to work. I don't think anyone's going to swipe on that.
He's an incel, right? Like, is that part of
so
his
he's the
trick?
founder.
Well,
I think
probably,
yes, he probably is.
Again, with that intro video for your dating profile, what do you expect?
He's been around for a few years, but he didn't really get a lot of attention until recently, and that's only because of Kanye West, the whole story with him being associated with the campaign for a few minutes. But
that interview on Alex Jones was wildly
crazy.
Alex Jones is like, no, but Kanye, you don't mean that you really like Hitler. Like, you like his fashion. He's a fashion guy. You like fashion. And Kanye is like, no, I love Hitler.
I mean, what the hell is happening? That it's like a clown show, except that it's real, and these guys are, I think, serious. I do think they're serious, by the way. It's where we're at in 2023. So
How old is Nick Fuentes?
He's in his 20s, I believe. I'm not positive, though, to be
Well,
fair.
no one ever taught him. I think, I don't know his situation. I think, doesn't he live with his parents or something? Isn't that?
He did. I don't think he
I'm
does
looking at you.
currently, but he did.
Well, no, it's like you follow these deranged people, like for journalistic purposes. Obviously, I'm not like.
Yeah, I haven't checked on his living situation.
Tina's a big fan, guys, but like, yeah, no, I know it's for journalistic purposes, but like, yeah, I mean,
he did for a period. I know when he was he's the founder of America First movement. He's a groyper. They started on 4chan. Like, we've talked about this on the show. And
he did all that for so many years that he never learned how to throw a frickin' ball. This is like, man, like, I mean, did you see when he tried to throw that thing at someone and he hit his bodyguard? You saw that video, right? Like, he tried to throw a drink at someone and he just he didn't know how to throw something. Walker, have you not seen this? You look confused.
I have not seen it.
You got to see this. So you know how like when you throw something, and look, I'm no athlete. I'm not pretending I am, but I do know how to. If you said, Ron, throw me a ball, I could accomplish that task because like I was taught how to throw a freaking ball. You just kind of, and eventually you let go. He didn't let go. He didn't let go until it was like, so like you throw a ball like that and you kind of let go about here. He still had the thing in his hand when it was like here. So he just kind of like, it just sort of went in the air and then just hit the person standing right in front of him who could have like decked him out. Why didn't that person do it? Well, because that person was his bodyguard. So they probably turned around and was like, by the way, you got to up my pay by a lot, Nazi Magoo. I don't know what they said, but
dude.
He,
just like, what a loser. Oh my God. Like,
no, it's bad. It's bad. But, all of his fan base is,
how broken do you have to be that guy? And how much more broken do you have to be somebody that likes that guy?
Follows him. Pretty broken. And it's something, and I've said this before, and it's why I've been interviewing folks that have left right-wing extremist movements. We need to face this as a society. There's a reason that these guys are existing. We got to do something about it because it's really, it's bad. I mean, where's the next Dylan Roof going to come from? This pool?
I don't know, but I would say that guy. Like, I would point to that guy and say, like, somebody in this nexus in
somebody
this
in his
circle
nexus,
over
yeah.
here.
There are folks that are worse than him. A lot of the times, I don't want to give too much attention to some of these individuals because they want to be famous. I think a lot of them, and giving them that energy isn't beneficial for anybody except for them. So you have to find a balance here. But yeah, it's definitely going to come from that pool of individuals. All right, so my next very funny story, and I can't wait for Ron to see this one. J6 arrestees get in a fight in prison over Tucker Carlson, and one of them gets stabbed in the nose. And if you think I'm making this up, I am not. So basically what happened was a prison fight. The J6ers like to watch Tucker Carlson on TV. A group of other prisoners said, no, we don't want to watch Tucker Carlson. He's racist. Things came to blows, and one of them got stabbed in the nose. What do y'all make of that?
It wasn't all like January 6th participants. It was just a group of prisoners.
Right. So it was the J6ers versus other prisoners.
Okay. All right.
And they lost.
And
I thought, well, the way you set that up, I thought
that's what we're getting out of this?
Yeah. I thought you were saying different January 6th people got in an argument about Tucker. That's why I was just like, well, what was this argument? I think he's the greatest ever. I think he's the greatest ever. He would be my best friend. No, he would be my best friend. And then
what'd you say?
What'd you say exactly?
What did they fight over there?
I'll tell you what. These are some of the quotes. So this was on a political prisoner podcast that he was on as a guest. This came out on Monday. So he basically says, we were kind of almost hunted down and told we weren't going to be watching Tucker anymore. Mr. Remy said he and his fellow January 6 suspects being held in Northern Neck Regional Jail in Virginia ahead of the trial decided to, quote unquote, take a stand, leading to a fight where the Florida man, of course, the Florida man says he was stabbed in the nose while another January 6 individual dislocated a shoulder.
Whoa.
Fuck around, find out.
Jeez.
Fafo. Their favorite expression is fafo. So there you go. Fuck around, find out. That's
look. Right. I mean,
I like how that's a punishment for them. You don't get to watch Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was in jail, like the opposite would be the punishment. Yeah. Hey, sit down. You have to watch Tucker Carlson. Like, what the fuck did I? Really? I'm already in prison. You're gonna make me do that too? That's shitty. Yeah. But they're like, you're losing your privileges. No Tucker Carlson for you.
No Tucker Carlson for you. So now something.
By the way, I just love like the way that Tucker like delivers things. Like it's. Well, I'm not saying that you're stupid, but they think you're stupid.
They think you're stupid.
And because you believe that, and you believe it because it's true. Like he is just such a like finely tuned propagandist.
100% he is. And people forget he used to be on the same show with Rachel Maddow on MSNBC. Like
they had the same haircut.
They have the same.
I mean, he had that. He was on Crossfire too, and still until Jon Stewart canceled it.
That's right. Oh,
Jon Stewart single-handedly canceled that show,
and he never got over it.
Tucker Carlson? Or Jon Stewart?
No, Tucker.
Is he still mad at him?
He seems like that. He's like, I don't know. Isn't that when he took like a really hard turn to the right? Or was that after Bill O'Reilly got taken off the air?
Was he ever
I just don't know if he's committed to anything. I think he's committed to enriching himself. I think he's one of these guys that just will say anything for some clicks and some money and notoriety.
Well, he was the right wing. Like, it was supposed to be, Crossfire was supposed to be, he was the right guy. And Paul Begala, which I mean is quite humorous, but Paul Begala was supposed to be the left guy, and they were supposed to, hash it out. And then Jon Stewart went on and said, "This is the most stupid thing I've ever seen in my freaking life."
Yeah, you both.
And just single-handed, he just steamrolled their freaking show and got it canceled. I don't think Paul Begala is still mad about it because he talks about it. He's like, "Yeah, Jon Stewart canceled my dumb show." But maybe Tucker Carlson's still mad. We do need more of that. We need more comedians canceling cable news shows. We need more of that. I would try.
Get on that, Ron. Get on
that.
Hey,
I will never say this to anybody else. Go on, Tucker. Go on, Tucker.
Oh man, too funny. All right, I thought that was kind of a funny story. Now for something more serious, depressing, and just tragic. Indiana University student was stabbed in an anti-Asian attack in Bloomington this past week.
This is my place.
A 56-year-old woman stabbed an 18-year-old Indiana University student while riding a public bus in Bloomington and told a detective that she did it because the victim was Chinese. Billy Raynard Davis of Bloomington approached the Carmel, Indiana woman on Wednesday as she was waiting to exit the bus and began stabbing her repeatedly in the head, according to a probable cause affidavit. Security camera footage showed that Davis and the woman had not interacted before the attack. The footage showed Davis stabbing or attempting to stab her about 7 times before returning to her seat on the bus. A witness followed Davis on foot until police were able to arrest her sometime after 4:45 p.m. The student received treatment at Bloomington Hospital for several head wounds. Her condition was not released.
Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
I mean, this is my alma mater too, by the way. This is my alma mater. I went to Indiana University. Bloomington's a really wonderful place, and it's so heartbreaking to hear this.
Yeah.
Bloomington's also where the grad student strikes had a big movement. They were among the leaders of the grad student strikes that you saw throughout the country. A lot of that was in Bloomington. Yeah. Oh, it's terrible to hear this. That's just freaking evil and so sad. Sorry to hear it.
That is a straight up hate crime. Hate crime.
Openly admitted hate crime too.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. What do we say about this one? MTG.
Oh, I just wanted to say that a lot of the COVID conspiracy theories are really inextricably linked to anti-Asian hate, and so we have seen a surge in that in recent years, and it's very troubling.
It's very troubling.
There's some people who still say the China virus. Like there's some people who still say that. I mean, I think Trump did it not too long ago. Yeah, like Trump did it not too long ago. I'm pretty sure. Like people still say that.
It's definitely driving an increase in Asian hate. It's really problematic.
And all the lab leak theory, all the credence that's been given to something that is extremely unlikely, and now that just helps fuel it because it's an attack or it's whatever. No, you idiots, stop, please.
Yeah, but they're not going to stop because a lot of them are so they're so hardwired to these conspiracy theories at this point.
Weary of conspiracy theories.
Right. Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, and they're they just want an excuse to hate people. Right. Like it's not like a totally reasonable person heard some information and then was like, "Oh, I don't like Asian people now." It's like, no, you already hated Asian.
You already didn't, and now you're being more radicalized.
And now you have not a justification, but like some bullshit you can cling to justify your racism.
Right.
All right, Marjorie Taylor Greene, our favorite person to make fun of, because obviously. So the Georgia representative who pushes conspiracy theories, including that 9/11 didn't happen, is now been put on the Homeland Security Committee in the House. I wanted to bring this to everybody's attention. This is a really terrible spot to put her, in my opinion. Nearly 2 years ago, the House, including 11 Republicans, voted to strip Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene of her committee assignments just weeks into the Georgia freshman's first term. The resolution followed Greene's racist and anti-Semitic rhetoric, her parroting of conspiracy theories on the 2020 election, 9/11, and the 2018 Parkland shootings, and her repeated indications of support for fatal violence against Democrats. Fast forward 2 years later, Greene is now being elevated to the House Homeland Security Committee, despite having incited plenty of threats herself against the Homeland. So what's disturbing to me about this is Homeland also houses DHS. So this is a big part of immigration. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I think it's just disturbing enough that she's in Congress.
Yeah, they should have expected.
It's just sort of like, I can't believe she's on this committee. Well, what would be a better one for her? She's a psycho. It's frightening enough that she's elected.
Fair.
Like everything else is. Everything else is just like icing on the turd cake, where it's like, where else is she going?
I will say, if she can get elected, so can you. If she can get elected and stay in office, so could you.
So could you. All right. Next story. Let me just, before I put this up, what do you think the next thing is that the Proud Boys are protesting?
Wait. Let me just throw one out there because I bet it'll be freaking random. All right. I'm gonna
This is
say
so random you're never gonna guess, but go.
I'm gonna say tacos, and the only thing I'm basing that off of is because it's like everyone was mad at M&Ms, and for some reason I just feel like tacos. There's something about tacos. I don't know what. I got nothing else there. I just feel I just got this weird inkling.
All right, tacos. What do you think, Walker?
Body wash.
Ooh, man. All right. I wouldn't have bet.
Nobody's gonna tell me what I have to smell like. I'm not gonna put any of your tyranny cream on my body.
Tyranny cream. Holy shit.
You know,
All
like,
right.
I mean, come
So
on.
you're both wrong, but the absurdity of this is not far from behind. Let's
Well,
put
wait.
this up.
Which
No,
one of us
let's
is
not-
closer?
Hard to say.
Well, you have to
Hard to
pick one,
say.
and then we'll decide whether or not you're wrong when we see what it is.
Hey, wait, can I? So,
yes.
just like, body odor is freedom stink. Come on, it's there.
There. All right, I'm going
You
with
it,
Tina
guys.
knows the answer.
I'm gonna have to go with
Vindicate
Walker.
me.
All right, that's fair.
Walker's the guest, so I'm going with Walker for that reason alone. But also, yes. All right. They are protesting, wait for it, a traffic circle. And I am not kidding you. Now,
All right,
mind you-
I think body wash is closer. That's fair. I mean, unless you wanted to say like, well, taco trucks technically are next to traffic.
I gotta say, you did have the like. Yep, that's a better connection.
A street is more involved with my thing. Slightly,
It is.
But
It is definitely.
Wait, Colin, can you put up the new Antifa t-shirt for me? I got a photo of the new Antifa outfit that's coming out.
Okay, who
That's pretty
who
funny.
among us has not been frustrated at a traffic circle?
All right, fair, but I'm not
That's
kidding
fair.
you. Colin, can we at least put up the photo of so we can see this guy here on the left is Brian Knoll. He is a Proud Boy from the Fresno chapter. So when now, mind you, the reporter that reported on this he buried the lead. I don't think he realized these were Proud Boys. But when I saw the photo, I'm like, okay, Proud Boys are now out there protesting traffic circles because don't fix what's not broken, yo. My favorite is
Look, I get it. If you have like the character of downtown, you don't want to put a traffic circle there. This is more forgivable than all the other shit that they get upset about.
Yeah, I do wish they would just spend all their energy on this sort
on
of
traffic
thing.
circles. Fair enough.
Yeah,
Fair
like
enough.
if they were just like, we're okay with this bike lane, but not the other one. All right, just fucking solve that on your own. Whatever. You're not hurting anybody. Okay, go fuck off. Fine.
Somebody get Pete Buttigieg in there to beautify that city. Put lights under the bridges, all the bridges.
Oh man, all the bridges. All right, that's what I got for this week on the roundup. Ron, thank you for
Lovely
joining
roundup.
us. I always enjoy your input on this stuff because it makes me laugh. I think the audience likes it too.
Thanks, y'all.
So, Walker, you've got a new piece that came out today. Now we're going to get serious. New piece that came out today. I also want to discuss the one that you had a couple months ago in relation to Blexit and Candace Owens and what's funding that movement. So, for
A week
folks-
ago.
was that a week ago? I thought it was.
It's no, it feels like forever. And to me,
Apparently.
that piece that you're talking about that came out today, I was working on that until 8 a.m.
Oh, God.
So
All right.
yeah, no. So it's
which do
it
you want to
all
talk
blends.
about first? The Candace Owens one or the one you just finished?
Well, we can talk about the Candace Owens one. That got less
Okay.
play. This one's doing a lot better. And if you haven't and you're watching this,
Interesting.
subscribe to my newsletter. Important context.
All right, so folks that don't know who Candace Owens is, she is a conservative pundit, I guess you could call her. I don't know what else you call her. She's been associated with Turning Point USA. She has a podcast. She was recently finding herself in hot water because she was wearing the White Lives Matter t-shirt with Kanye West or Ye. So, what is the background on this article? Why did you decide to look into who was bankrolling this?
Well, I have to give credit to my colleague Alex Koch, who is
Okay.
an award-winning money and politics reporter, and he was
Yeah.
digging through 990s like he does,
And
and
wait, hang on. For folks that don't know what a 990 is, let's explain that.
federal tax filing for a nonprofit group. And he was digging through them, and he noticed that a lot of these white, stodgy, the foundations associated with white, stodgy, conservative billionaires and wealthy families were giving to this group, Blexit, which Owens founded the group in 2018 and said that it would spark a realignment of voters of color away from the Democrats to the Republicans. It was going to be a revolution, a movement, if you will. And
So Blexit means black exit, right? Basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. She didn't actually coin the term, but she did adopt it and turned it into it's modeled after Brexit. So
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Blexit. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. And 2 election cycles later, well, actually 3, because 2018 happened, then 2020, now 2022. Her movement has not taken off. It has really,
Shocking.
stalled. Who could have guessed? And apparently Kanye West did the artwork for it. There was some controversy
interesting.
over that, but that's
Okay.
what Owens said, and it still hasn't taken off. And gosh, I can't imagine why.
I can't imagine why. So who did we find in the 990s? More importantly, who was in there?
So there are a few names. There was William Dunn, who gave Owens $500,000 between 2019 and 2020, and he's been a funder of Turning Point USA, Prager University, and the anti-Muslim hate group, the David Horowitz Freedom Center. There was also Darwin Deason, who is another Turning Point USA founder. He's known for being one of the largest shareholders in Xerox. He's given to Koch-backed operations as well, like Americans for Prosperity, Stand Together Foundation. So people like that, really.
So these are wealthy white individuals. What is it that they have to gain by seeding organizations like this in your mind?
Well, I think that anything to disrupt the Democrats at the ballot box, anything that might hurt the Democratic Party, they're going to obviously jump on. Now, funding for the group has waned recently. In 2021, it did fall off, but it's pretty indicative that they see this as an election vehicle, something to use in big election years, and that's really against the purpose of what this type of nonprofit is supposed to be. A 501c3 nonprofit, which is what Blexit is supposed to be like a social. It's supposed to be like a charity. It's not supposed to engage in political activity, election campaign activity. But it seems like that's sort of what this is. And they held a rally in Washington, and it just so happened to coincide with a Trump rally, which was an official to circumvent this. It was an official White House event. So it wasn't a campaign event, but at the event, Trump obviously gave his stump speech and targeted it to the Blexit audience, which got invitations to attend. Our laws are just completely a joke at this point. we really need new campaign finance laws on the books. The existing ones are not enough.
Right.
And we'll get into that more with the next story that we did.
Right.
This week.
So it seems to me that this is sort of a playbook that we've seen happening since, I'd say, the Tea Party. I think what we saw with the Tea Party was sort of a precursor to what we're seeing now. So anything they can do to disrupt, to solidify their power, really. So this is the GOP, wealthy GOP guys saying, like, we want to solidify our political power. How do we do that? Well, we do it by, disrupting, these folks and what's the perfect group to disrupt? Oh, Blexit. Let's do Blexit. Yes, let's do that. So
also they really want narrative control, and they see wealth, the right-wing wealth sees and has traditionally seen the sort of establishment media and academia as oppositional to their agenda. Now, that's in large part because evidence and science and research and academia happens organically, and things that don't work don't find a lot of support, and there are testable hypotheses, especially when you get into science, like you can test things. The proof is, does something work or does it not? And so the right sort of approaches this ideologically. We want this agenda. Now let's work backward and find experts who are willing to say that, yes, this is a good thing to do. And yes, this is what we need. Right. And so really they've created this new establishment of nonprofits, think tanks, beachheads at academic institutions like the Hoover Institution at Stanford. Right. Like they're really trying to inject right-wing thought into academia because they don't feel like it's gotten a fair shake. They don't feel like the position of capital has gotten a fair shake. And so that's really what they're trying to do. And Blexit is part of this, because Blexit promotes ideas like, we don't need social welfare, we just need a change in mentality. We got to get away from the government, from big government, that limits our freedom and whatnot. That's really what this is all about.
That's the big goal. Okay.
Yeah, the big goal is to undermine government, win the conversation about government, so that rich people don't have to pay as much in taxes, if anything, in taxes. I mean, the new Republican proposal is to eliminate the income tax and impose just a sales tax. Yeah, completely. Ugh. These guys don't want to pay taxes. Anything. That is what this is all about. Every single thing that you're seeing today is about, like, well, it's two things. Sorry. It's they don't want to pay taxes, and they don't want to disrupt their income streams. Right. The money that they're making. They want to make money. They don't want to be taxed on it. So that's why they're complaining about it. Everything that they talk about, it all goes back to that.
It all goes back to that. Walker, that makes sense to me, because I think, again, not to bring up the Tea Party, but I think that was a testing ground for this. A lot of the rhetoric that you see these folks engaging in, whether it's Candace Owens or some of the other folks, the anti-vaxxers, whatnot, it's just crazy stuff that they're saying, right? Or it's not grounded in truth and reality at all. But that certainly is interesting for a certain segment of the population. And the benefit there is if they get folks to buy into the conspiracy theories, i.e., the COVID vaccine is going to kill you, or i.e. the 2020 election was stolen, Trump actually won, whatever these things are, right? That disruption is they know they're not true. I think these wealthy donors know that this stuff's not true, but they've realized that if they convinced a big chunk of the Republican base that it is, it benefits them financially, because it allows them to distract from the wealth extraction that they are engaging in. And there's a little bit of that happens on the Democratic Party side too, but not to the extent that we see from the right-wingers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the COVID misinformation in particular is really insidious, because they're using that as a wedge to win over, let's say sort of the homeopathic crowd, the upper middle class white, liberal. That might be a point of entry.
Red pill them. Yeah.
Yeah, that might be a point of entry to the right. And the more people who they can get into that, belief set, the fewer people are going to be calling for new regulations on business. I mean, really, COVID is a worker protection issue. Fundamentally, say what you will about masks, say what you will about vaccines, whatever. There should be in every workplace now that we've had an airborne pathogen pandemic that's killed more than 1 million people, every workplace should have to upgrade its indoor air quality standards. That there should be HEPA filters in every room. Ventilation should be upgraded. Like that is adapting and how you move forward in this situation. Vaccines are obviously useful tools as well. Masking is obviously also useful, but really the onus should be on businesses to protect their workers. And if everybody is like, if there are enough people saying it's all a scam, it's all a lie, no, it's just a ploy for control, you're not going to have that unified demand for worker protections. And so the money can keep flowing in. and workers are expendable to these people.
No, they indeed are. That's obvious. I mean, we just had the World Economic Forum this past week, and the precautions that they were taking there were quite stringent.
Yep.
So it's interesting to me that these wealthy elites that are like fine, sowing discord among the population when it comes to whether or not vaccines are effective or masking's good, or whether the anti-Semitic tropes about the Jewish folks are trying to steal your money. That's why COVID is here. It's a made-up thing. Name it. Name the conspiracy theory associated with the COVID misinformation. They're fine with that as long as they can benefit from that. But then you see how they're treating themselves here at the World Economic Forum. They have these cards where they have to have the PCR test, and if it's not negative, they're not allowed into the facilities. They paid extra for ventilation. So we've all seen this. So obviously they believe that COVID is real, and they want top-notch protections from contracting this virus.
Yes. Look to how they treat themselves. Look at what they do for themselves. You need to wear a mask in the White House. You need to test before you meet the president. You need to test to get into the World Economic Forum. They've got HEPA filters there indoors.
Exactly.
They're taking this seriously. So why aren't you, and why isn't your employer? That is the question that everyone should be asking. Looking at those videos, looking at those images, why isn't the same protection required at every workplace in America? Because
they don't want to spend the money on doing it. They want to spend the money on protecting themselves, but they don't want to spend the money on protecting their workers. And they certainly don't want to, have a shutdown economy where they can't extract wealth. They need the economy to keep going. So, yeah, there's definitely a double standard there, and it's crazy how these wealthy individuals have no problem sowing discord among those that are being harmed by this, and they don't care. It allows them to just be, money grubbers at this point.
Yep.
So you're doing this new Substack called Important Context. Is that exclusively yours, Walker, or is this like a handful of journalists getting together to cover this sort of thing, or what's the scoop behind that?
I do have Alex was a guest writer on one of my articles. I'm open to guest submissions.
Okay.
It is my personal Substack. The relationship with the Opt Out Media Foundation is being hammered out. We're figuring that out. We have cross-published now twice. But yeah, Important Context is about helping people decode the national conversation. And sort of know who the players are, and what the groups are that are influencing the discussions that we're all having. So that's what this is about. There have been 3 stories. It's a mostly weekly newsletter. I say mostly because there might be a week where that goes by where a piece doesn't get published, and it goes the next week. It's just I'm one person. It
takes time to research this stuff.
It does. It's great. Look, my favorite thing ever as a journalist is having a bunch of scoops that I'm like, okay, I got this. I can write this. I can bang this out in a day, and then okay, on to the next one. But then there are obviously going to be lull periods, so I'll try to keep it interesting for people. But yeah, the goal is to have that be a self-sustaining newsletter. Where I get to do the work that I want to do, that I think is important, and so that's what that's about.
Let's look at this. Your new scoop: big mystery donors fund COVID conspiracy nonprofit. So tax filings revealed that the Brownstone Institute, a prolific shadowy COVID misinformation group, is mostly funded by just nine large donations. Only 9, so they're sizable. Walk us through this.
So yeah, okay. So the Brownstone Institute first emerged in May 2021, and it billed itself as the spiritual child of the Great Barrington Declaration. Now, we've talked about the Great Barrington Declaration before. I've talked about the Great Barrington Declaration ad nauseum, but for the people in the chat who don't know, I'll just give you the brief version, and that is. The Great Barrington Declaration was an open letter published in October 2020. It was written by 3 scientists from prestigious universities. Dr. Jay Bhattacharya from Stanford, also affiliated. He's also a fellow at the Hoover Institution. Martin Kulldorff, who was affiliated with Harvard Medical School. Not anymore. Not anymore. And then there was there's Dr. Sunetra Gupta, who was from Oxford University, and prestigious schools. But the letter called for governments to basically let COVID rip and only implement what they dubbed focused protection. Now, this idea of limiting protection to the most vulnerable, that had been kicking around in right-wing circles for a long time. That wasn't original to them. They just put an academic face on it.
Right.
In fact, the Heritage Foundation, a Koch-funded operation, had put out a reopening plan several months earlier that made a similar recommendation, but it lacked the academic credentials behind it. So this document arises out of a conference that's hosted by the American Institute for Economic Research, which is a libertarian think tank on the outskirts of the Koch network. It's received some funding.
Extremely far right libertarianism, right?
Right. And it has received some money from Koch. From Koch groups. It received some money from the Charles Koch Foundation in 2019, in 2020, and in 2021. So it does get money. It's just a very small amount. They also get money from Donors Trust, a larger amount of money from Donors Trust, which is a preferred money conduit of Koch network donors. It's not exclusively Koch. There are other wealthy individuals that give to Donors Trust, like some of the people mentioned in my Candace Owens story. But in any case, it's a capital-aligned libertarian think tank, and it comes out with this document calling for letting COVID go and not intervening. And this is before we even had vaccines.
Right.
The document, there's also some involvement of the Trump administration. Trump's COVID advisor, Scott Atlas, helped make the conference possible by getting Sunetra Gupta into the United States in the first place. Because remember, we had travel restrictions.
That's right. Yeah.
And he had also gotten he scheduled a meeting for the authors of the document with Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar. Anyway, to Brownstone. Brownstone is founded by Jeffrey Tucker, who was the editorial director and vice president of the American Institute for Economic Research. And he founded it to sort of take this war on public health measures and make it his full-time thing. And for a long time now, he's been putting out misinformation related to the virus, to vaccines. Brownstone has become a very prolific source of misinformation, and it's got personal connections to Ron DeSantis and to Donald Trump. Paul Alexander, who is a Health and Human Services science advisor, is affiliated with Brownstone now. And Ron DeSantis's new Public Health Integrity Committee, which he announced to sort of scrutinize federal public health recommendations, that is stacked with people who have been affiliated with Brownstone, are and have been. So it's a pretty influential group. That's flown under the radar for, I think, a lot of people. And Tucker has sort of adopted this populist veneer, like, oh, I'm standing up against lockdowns for the little guy. These public health measures are government tyranny and they're crushing people. And I'm here to tell you to that blah, 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 blah. And he's sort of denied. He's denied that Koch has played any significant role in promoting this message in any way. Yeah. But his general sense, I think, narrative is that big money generally isn't actually interested in rolling back public health measures. That the public health measures actually benefit big money. But now we have his tax filings.
You're right. But now we have his tax filings, which is woo. Okay.
Yeah. We have the tax filings, and we can see exactly where this message is coming from. Well, not exactly. We can see basically where this message is coming from. So there were 9 donations that make up, I think, 85% of Brownstone's fundraising haul.
Okay.
Yes. They range from $25,000 to $600,000, which is more than half of that amount, which is more than half came in the form of one donation.
One donation, 600,000. Yeah, wow. Who was that?
Oh, some just Joe Everyman. So I reached out to Tucker and I said, can you tell me, I know that Brownstone doesn't disclose your donors. This is a problem with U.S. disclosure rules, is that nonprofits don't have to disclose publicly who is funding them. And frankly, they don't have to disclose, all of their donations, just those that comprise more than 2% of the group's revenue for a given year.
Okay.
So we don't know how many donations in total this group has had. We just know that most of their fundraising haul comes from these 9 donations.
Gotcha. Okay.
And we might never know who's behind that, because individuals and corporations are not required to disclose their charitable spending.
It's dark money.
Yeah, it's this. When we talk about dark money, this is it. This is it. But it's very in the future. We might know more when donor advised funds, they come out. They're another fundraising vehicle exclusively for rich people to give to charities. Right. Those come out over the summer. We will look at those and we will see if there's anything for Brownstone. I'm a little skeptical. I would imagine that these are direct contributions from an individual or individuals or corporation or whatever. I don't know that. We will find out more in the future. But Brownstone is extremely opaque. They do not reveal anything. They wouldn't tell us how many donations they had. They wouldn't tell us if they took money from any other tax-exempt organizations, if they took money from donor-advised funds, if they took money from individuals or corporations. They wouldn't tell us anything.
So did Tucker Carlson respond to you when you reached out to him for comment at all?
Jeffrey Tucker.
Jeffrey Tucker. Oh, sorry.
No. No, I know.
Total Freudian slip, but yes, Jeffrey Tucker. Sorry.
Well, and they're somewhat they're similar. I mean, Jeffrey Tucker. To give you an idea of who Jeffrey Tucker is, he's a child labor advocate. Which is insane, right? This is where we're at. Yeah, he wrote a story in 2016 saying, like, we look at these old photos from the 1800s and we're supposed to think they're terrible, but think about those kids' inner lives and how fulfilling this must have been. Like, he's a child labor advocate. He was an assistant to Lew Rockwell in the 1980s. Lew Rockwell was the editor behind Ron Paul's newsletter, which, as we all know, had that scandal with all those racist and homophobic posts. Tucker is one of the people who's been floated as a possible author of those posts, along with Rockwell.
Kidding me.
Yeah, but he has declined to comment on that in the past, and I did not ask him about it. But he also is listed as a founding member of the neo-Confederate group League of the South. He and Rockwell.
Wait, what?
Yes.
This I did not know. Wow. So League of the South, we've actually talked about League of the South on the show. I had a guest journalist on to talk about that. He had covered them earlier on. That's a white supremacy group. Pure and simple. Is he financially associated with them? What's the association there? He's just a member.
So a 2000 report from the Southern Poverty Law Center from 2000 noted that he had written for publications affiliated with the group, and that on the group's website he was listed as a founding member. He has denied any affiliation. But he and Rockwell, who is also listed as a founding member, are also affiliated with the Mises Institute. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. You are. SPLC also says has strong neo-Confederate principles. So there's that.
So so for folks that don't know who they are, that is an economic group that is extremely right-wing libertarian. I'd say it's like neoconservative principles on speed, really. I mean, super, super far right libertarianism. That is wild that all of those things are lining up in that row. So
there's more.
Oh God, there's more. Wait. All right, go.
There's more. So in addition to being affiliated with those groups, he is a veteran of Koch operations. he was with American Institute for Economic Research.
Yeah,
He
there you
was
go.
with the Foundation for Economic Education. He's with the Mackinac Center currently. He's with the Acton Institute. I mean, there are a lot of these groups that have ties to Koch that he's been involved with. So
That's crazy.
his denials that Koch has in any way pushed the anti-lockdown stuff. He cites a number of studies that came out with Koch funding that supported lockdowns. But like, if you look at Koch groups and what they're doing, and frankly, this should be updated on Charles Koch's Wikipedia page. But if
you're like, I'm just putting that out there, editors.
Anyway, anybody who's involved with that, I'm just throwing that out there. When you look at Koch groups, you see that in March 2020, they start pushing to reopen states.
Yeah.
And as time goes, at first they celebrate school closures as an opportunity for homeschooling. That does happen. But then around spring, summer 2020, the tune changes because the labor market didn't recover. You have to remember that COVID bottomed out the economy, really plunged us down. Oil demand fell to its lowest point in, I think, 40 years. So there was a real rush to get everything open again. And Koch groups have been in this fight for a long time. Tucker and I've done a lot of reporting on this. You can look my profile up on the Center for Media and Democracy and see those articles. Strongly encourage people who are curious to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this group has a lot of possible ways that its funding could come from, a lot of individuals that this group could get money from. We don't know. It's possible we'll never know. But it is important to note the amount of money that it's getting at once and the kind of support that it actually has and the set that support comes from. I think that's important.
So do you think, in your opinion, Brownstone Institute is predominantly in existence for supporting anti-vaccine narratives? Is that fairly accurate, or is there other aspects to what they do?
It's broader. It's pushing back on any kind of COVID mitigation effort.
Okay. Oh, not just I see what you're saying.
So it promotes.
So no masks?
No masks, no lockdowns, no workplace protections.
So
although
COVID is just like poof, it doesn't exist. Like that's just.
It's a scam. It was never as serious as their argument is. It was never as serious as we made it out to be. Like Brownstone articles, they claim that New York City's COVID wave in the spring of 2020 wasn't actually that bad. Remember when we had freezer trucks?
They saying it was only like 20,000 deaths or something really small. I remember reading something.
We had freezer trucks of bodies outside of hospitals to handle the overflow. Like doctors, I've talked to doctors who worked through that surge in New York. There's not a single person is going to tell you, oh, it wasn't that bad. Like, very good friend of mine. It was bad. A very good friend of mine from college, was telling me how terrible it was to work through that and how, like seeing so much death. Like this is it's revisionism. They're trying to undermine any movement on this. And also, I think there's another aspect, and that is they've found a wedge to appeal to ostensibly liberal voting demographic.
I agree. So it's a form. I think the other added benefit of this whole entire thing is a form of red pilling people that might be independent on the left, whatnot, but maybe they're not part of the alt-right. Maybe they're not part of believing in right-wing libertarian economic beliefs traditionally. But it's a wedge issue that can be used to sort of red pill folks and lead them down that path. And that is something that these guys have actively been trying to do now for a good decade.
Yep. That they crave cultural relevance, and this is a path to that. And it's really troubling because I don't know many other reporters in the country who are covering this. I know Kira Butler at Mother Jones is doing great work. There are a number of people on Substack who are doing very good work. But really there's just a handful of us, and we are outgunned. I do not have the resources that are available to these groups, not even close. This is very much for me a passion project because it's wrong. What they're doing is wrong. People are dying. This has a real, tangible human cost. That's
Yeah.
that's what motivates me. They are killing people with misinformation.
They're
Actively,
literally
yeah.
killing people with misinformation. That's not an exaggeration. I do want to. So Jeffrey Tucker, I believe he self-identifies as an ANCAP, anarcho-capitalist. So anarcho-capitalists are kind of this right-wing fringe group that basically they're looking at, like Peter Thiel would identify, I believe, in this area. But he's like saying, let's seastead off of the coast of California. If we build our offices off on these seasteaded things, we're not privy to any sort of government law. We'll do whatever we want. A lot of them are very deeply into cryptocurrency for that reason.
Tucker was a part of a crypto firm for a while.
Oh, he was. Okay.
He was a partner at a crypto firm. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's definitely a group that exists. I think sometimes they're sort of identified as anarchists in a way, but I don't believe that they're anarchists. I wouldn't put him in that group.
Charles Koch is sort of in this group too.
Right. I would say that these guys are just extreme right-wing libertarians, and that's a different thing. The only reason they want to escape government is because they don't want to pay taxes, is because they want to be able to exploit workers, because they don't want any sort of restrictions against any of these nefarious activities that they want to engage in. And it's mainly driven by extreme greed, right? These are folks that are either very wealthy already or see themselves being very wealthy if they're willing to do, all of these, like your point about child labor is a prime example, I believe, of that. How do we get out of child labor laws? Well, we see, so it's a very extreme group of folks. And the fact that they are seeding discourse, seeding division, disruption among the Republican base. And also, you're right, they're trying to red pill liberals as well into their group for reasons that have nothing to do with vaccines. Is it's really disturbing. And I don't think a lot of people are self-aware of that connection.
Yeah, this is something that Will Stansel has pointed out recently, that this is sort of red pilling more liberal people. It's dangerous. I mean, look, in 2024, Ron DeSantis is going to be running for president, presumably.
Yeah,
and he's making anti-vaccine conspiracy theories his pitch to voters. I mean, that's how he's going to try to win in the suburbs. And Democrats have shied away from COVID because Biden wanted to move past it by the midterms. That was very clear. The vaccines came out and everybody loves a pharmaceutical solution to something, right? Like everybody loves it. Oh, I don't have to worry about this anymore. I just took a pill and it's over. I took the vaccine. It's over.
It's not reality.
It's not reality.
Here's the other part, Walker, that sort of feeds into that. There are legitimate reasons to not trust pharmaceutical companies. It's not because of the science. It's not because of the scientists that work there and do good, solid work and actually produce vaccines that do work or medicines that do work, right? That's not the controversy. The controversy is that they want to enrich themselves. They're taking government money, right, taxpayer money, and they're still holding on to their patents. That is the problem.
That's
right
the
there.
scandal.
That is the scandal, right? Yet it gets put into a distrust of science because that also benefits.
Well, there's widespread ignorance that these people, that these groups like Brownstone exploit. People don't understand.
They're absolutely exploiting. They're exploiting that people don't understand the science.
They're 100% predatory. People don't understand vaccines are not going to, generally speaking, a vaccine isn't going to prevent you from getting sick, but it might prevent you from dying. And
exactly.
And it reduces transmission. It does. Yeah. They do reduce it, but not perfectly. And certainly in this case, not perfectly. That doesn't mean the vaccines don't work. And by the way, continued spread of this virus is undermining the pharmaceutical tools that we have because the virus evolves. That does happen. So the trick is to get this taken care of quickly. That's how we can beat COVID, or at least adapt to it in such a way that it's not just this ever-present threat that you have to accept in your workplace. But the point that I was making earlier about these guys and their anti-vaccine stuff is that Democrats have walked away from this conversation and said, we're not going to, we don't have to have it. The science is settled. It's over. You're going to have that fight though, because these guys are winning. They're radicalizing people. They are I mean, the man who attacked Paul Pelosi in his home is a deranged anti-vaxxer, among other deranged conspiracy theories. That, like, but it is radicalizing people because they're like telling them the vaccine is causing all this misery. It's not the virus, it's people. It's bad people, and they're the ones who are doing it. And people are scared. They've lost. They're sick. There's a lot of misery out there and a lot of uncertainty, and that's a dangerous combination. And I would love to see the Democratic Party push back more forcefully on this anti-science push, because they're going to deploy this playbook, and they have been to some extent, but COVID is more extreme against climate mitigations. I mean, in many ways,
right.
In many ways, the gas stove thing, that's a taste. That's a taste of what's coming. It's going to get worse.
Oh my God, the gas stove thing. I can't.
Yeah.
How is this a thing? I have to laugh just because it's so ridiculous. I don't disagree with you. I first started seeing at a lot of the Proud Boy rallies, whatnot, protests, where anti-vaccine rhetoric started filtering in, and you started to see this sort of like conflation of issues, right, with these extreme right-wing positions, anti-Semitic, a lot of the Telegram rooms, they made it anti-Semitic, not just anti-Asian, but also anti-Semitic, right? So the Jews
anti-trans too.
Yeah, anti-trans, right? So it is very dangerous conflation that's happening, and it's wild that that's getting put in the mix. So, and you read some of the comments that these anti-vaxxers make, and you just realize, like, no, they just don't understand the science. What she's saying doesn't make any sense. How do you explain to this person? Like, I saw this person this morning saying that shingles was a side effect of the chickenpox vaccine, and I'm like, it's an outcome of having the herpes virus in your body, and there's many forms of the herpes virus, not just chickenpox. But I mean, how do you get through to these folks, especially when you have such large amounts of money on the other side benefiting from the increase in misinformation and not wanting to do anything about it?
I don't know how to get through to them. Like, I'm seeing in the comments, somebody says, "Watch Died Suddenly." Died Suddenly is a widely discredited anti-vaccine film that uses footage from like years ago. It's just ridiculous.
Footage from that it had nothing to do with the vaccine.
Exactly.
They got. Oh my God! No,
stop
don't watch that nonsense.
Just stop it. It's like, oh my God. But I don't know how to, like, I think all you can do is sort of try to expose bad actors. That's what I'm trying to do.
Here's the thing, Walker. The bad actors are the ones at the top they know that they're spreading misinformation, and they don't care about the outcomes of that. They don't care if it destabilizes the country. They don't care if people die in the course of taking this advice. They don't care because they're like sociopaths. They're benefiting.
There's also money in it. There's money in anti-vaccine stuff because people are like, oh, this is the stuff I'm not hearing. They fund it. These guys have made careers out of this. They are exploiting people like this person in the comments. While this person is grossly wrong and spreading misinformation, they're also being grossly misled by bad actors. And so it's hard to, like, you have to, I mean, you have to kind of be real with people, I think. And some people are going to believe you, others won't. This has become sort of like a religion for some people, right? Like anti-vaccine stuff, it's what they believe, and they don't care what you have to say about it because it's what they believe. And deprogramming is, I don't know, but I'm hopeful that as this fight continues, that more people will stand up and say, wait a minute, you're posting stuff from the Brownstone Institute. I know about them. They're a dark money group that's funded by big money interests. Or you're posting something from Jay Bhattacharya. I know about him. He's a fellow at the Hoover Institution, which is a Koch funded outfit. And he was 2 judges have heard his testimony and found it not credible. Oh yeah, I know all about that. Like, people have to know who these people are. And if you're somebody who does, tell people who don't. Spread the word. Get it out there, because these guys are dangerous. They are spreading misinformation that can kill people, vulnerable people people who might not be as well off as they are. And it's wrong. It is morally
no, it is wrong. It's morally repugnant to me, and I just, a part of me feels bad for the folks that are lapping this up and thinking that it's correct information, because nobody is showing them otherwise, or if they are, they're just. But then they get to the point where they won't listen to. I've had conversation with anti-vaxxers where they just won't listen to what I'm saying, unfortunately, because they're so far down the rabbit hole.
Can we briefly touch on the ambassadors for these right-wing conspiracy theories on the left? Like, there are people who have found, wonderful. Hold on, sorry. Just to answer this person in the comments, information wasn't suppressed. All of the data is out there. It's been out there. There's a good channel, Debunk the Funk. Go there. No, it's great. It's wonderful. It's by a microbiologist. He goes through all this junk science. Go there, watch him. He's fantastic. But
I'm trying to find this comment now. I can't find it. But what is he saying that what you're saying is
just why was all the information suppressed other than a rushed vaccine was the only way? They're talking probably about like early treatments. This is like the hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin. Stop it. Go get better news sources, please.
Get better news sources.
Please. You're in a better news source. Pay attention. But so there are people on the left who have found that in terms of audience and reach, that there is money to be made.
Yes.
By promoting these conspiracy theories, and those people don't give a fuck about you. They don't care whether you live or die. They crave the validation you give them, but they care nothing about you. If you get sick and die, they will freaking deny. They just don't care. These people don't care, and they are promoting total junk science that is easily disproven. And there is good reporting out there. There are good reporters doing the work. There are good doctors and epidemiologists out there who are trying to spread the word. Like, it's really a shame. This stuff is so dangerous. It's much more dangerous. It's much more widespread than people realize, and there's got to be a more consolidated push back against it.
Yeah, I agree. The problem too is the algorithms on a lot of the social media platforms, including YouTube. Not so much now. The bad thing is that they allow all this misinformation to escalate, right? And then it recommends more misinformation, recommends more. Then all of a sudden they realize it's a problem, and they self-correct to an extreme point where now they're censoring anybody that's even reporting on misinformation, which is ridiculous too, right? So it bounces all the way over here, which is problematic. But this is definitely leading to an information tunnel in which people are getting rabbit hole down these pipes. Like, there was a Rolling Stone article that came out a couple of weeks ago that I thought was really interesting. They went onto TikTok and they wanted to know how long it would take like a 15-year-old to get on TikTok, watch a certain video, and have them led to a neo-Nazi. Like, how many minutes would that take to happen? 16 minutes. It's crazy, but that's where we're at. So I don't know what the solution is, but I know that it is becoming more and more of a problem. Our society becomes destabilized. There are reasons to not trust pharmaceutical companies. They're greedy bastards, and they want to extract wealth from society. They're doing an excellent job of that with help from our government.
But it's not that their products don't work. It's that they do, and they're profiting off of them. They're life-saving medications, and these people are profiting off of them.
That's correct.
That is the problem.
The scandal, the thing that should make you angry as a taxpayer is that they're allowed to keep the patent, even though it's our taxpayer money that's funding their research. That is the real scandal there. It's not about the scientists who are doing solid work. It's not about the effectiveness of the drugs, because most of them, if not all of them, have a place. Even if they're abused, they have another place that's good, right? So we can get into that rabbit hole another day on like fentanyl and whatnot. But point being is that the scandals that are happening aren't getting discussed, aren't being looked at, aren't getting changed. And what's happening instead is this sort of misinformation pipeline, which they benefit from more. Like so we're in a very precarious point in society. Yes. I see all of these things coming together with anti-Semitic beliefs, anti-trans beliefs. It's just this hot soup of destabilized problems. And
anti-critical race theory stuff, all of it, it comes from the same places. It is fermenting into this horrible sludge of fascism. This is the tip of the spear for fascism.
It is. And these guys, they keep thinking that they're saying my freedom as they're doing this, but it's like, no, you're not supporting civil liberties or any idea or American idea of what freedom is. You're supporting authoritarianism of a form. And how do you not see it? Like, a lot of these guys, Walker, now are getting to the point where they're openly saying, well, we realize we can't have the things that we want passed legally, passed legislatively, by democracy, because we're not winning that way. We can't even win now with minority rule. So fuck it. We want fascism. We want to put in the things that we want. We want theocracy, whatever it is. Like,
Nick Fuentes says that outright.
That's right. So that's what I'm saying. So we're now getting to the level of discourse where these guys they're letting go of this notion of my freedom, right? We want civil liberty. They're letting that go, and they're being honest for once about what they really want, which is fascism.
Yeah.
I mean, I just
And it doesn't help that the other side isn't being forthright about the risks that they face.
I agree. They're handing them a reason to do what they're doing. And they just, the Democratic Party enables these things. I agree with you.
Look, our public health officials aren't leveling with people about their risks post-vaccination. They're not leveling with people and saying that, COVID is linked to blood clots. It's linked to stroke. It's linked to all of to heart problems. It's linked to all of these problems down the road. And even mild infections can lead to just pretty severe outcomes. Yeah. Like, people aren't hearing that. And even though vaccination might reduce that, we don't know to the extent to which it does. And people should, I think, if we were being given honest information, and just being leveled with, people would be a lot more careful than they are. And it might spare people. And now I understand this is politics, but but
it shouldn't be
that
politics.
Sucks.
Public health should not be politicized, but it has been. You're correct. It's unfortunate.
And doing the, one of the reasons it has been politicized is because money has an agenda. Big money groups like Brownstone have an agenda, and they don't care how they have to get it. They'll do it. They don't have there's no sense of social responsibility. In fact, that social responsibility is viewed as problematic, as a
evil
flaw. Yeah. Yeah, like, how dare you tell me I need to consider other people?
Right.
Like, that's
classic Ayn Rand, right? The
Ayn Rand is Ubermensch.
Exactly, 100%. More that altruism is immoral. That's her standard response to these sorts of things. All right, Walker. Is there anything that we haven't touched on in your article that you think is important?
No, I think we hit it all. I think I've probably exhausted people in the comments.
No, this is really important stuff. No, I wanted it. So one of the things I'm trying to do with Right Wing Insanity is to address some of the disinformation that is getting fed out to the public, because you're right, it is being used as a red pilling mechanism to drag people into the alt-right. That's just not a crazy statement. We've seen it time and time again. So I want to thank you for spending the last hour or so with me. Also, where can people subscribe to your Substack? I think you're doing some very interesting work there. And for folks that don't know, 990s, digging through this stuff, it takes a long time to do it, but it's an important part of journalism. It is how you get to the facts of where this money is coming from. And Walker's been focused on that for quite a while now, and he's doing an excellent job. But so if they want to subscribe to your Substack, where's the best place? Are you going to still be using Twitter?
I'm still using Twitter for now. For now, as long as until it's not functional.
Right.
My Substack is importantcontext.substack.com. I may end up, that URL may change, but for now that's what it is. Please do subscribe. The work is tedious, but I think the product is good, and I've got some good stories lined up for coming out. So
excellent. Also, I want to give a shout out to Fly Chomper Fly, who threw some more money into the super chat. We appreciate your support. It was fun doing this live today because we often pre-record due to scheduling issues. So thanks for joining us today on Right Wing Insanity Report, and make sure that you guys tune in Saturday. I will be on the ground in Atlanta at Cop City covering that breaking story. And thanks for joining us.
And download the opt-out app.
Oh, yes, the opt-out. Yes,
fine.
where did they do that at? Wait, hang on. No, this is important because Status Coup is part of this. We use this.
Yeah, so opt-out.news, and you can download it on the Android devices and on iOS. I founded opt-out with my colleague Alex Koch.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's dedicated to amplifying independent media. We're starting to do some original reporting, as I mentioned.
Awesome.
Opt-out is cross-publishing with my Substack. That's not going to be for every post, but for some of them. And so yeah, that's it. But thank you so much. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks, Walker. Appreciate it.